Chapter 1129. As the number of people on the battlefield decreased, even if the immortal emperors of the foreign races could not open their eyes and spread out their spirit sense, they could still vaguely determine Ningfan's location by listening to his voice. When the immemorial lightning cauldron was activated, Ningfan was also affected by its side effects. He could not sense his surroundings and could only use sound to determine the enemy's attacks. However, because a few of the enemy immortal emperors had used their soundless divine abilities, Ningfan was already unable to dodge their attacks when they got close to him. In the end, he was still hit. Even with the strength of Ningfan's eternal true body, he still suffered some injuries after being attacked by several immortal emperors. Luckily, his injuries were not serious. Under the healing of the cross-shaped halos, he recovered in an instant. When the number of enemies is huge, Ningfan could activate the light of the immemorial lightning cauldron and engage in a chaotic battle shamelessly. When the enemy was only left with immortal emperors, the effect of the immemorial lightning cauldron was greatly reduced. Instead, it became the factor that affected Ningfan's combat power. Seeing that he had forced the enemy's army to retreat to the bottom of the water, Ningfan kept the immemorial lightning cauldron and dispersed the lightning rays that filled the sky. Then his eternal true body indifferently scanned the immortal emperors of the enemy army. Not counting Long Angua, who only had his true spirit left, there were 3 8th tribulation, 2 7th tribulation, and 4 6th tribulation emperors. Ningfan estimated that with his current strength and techniques, it would not be a problem for him to defeat an 8th tribulation immortal emperor. However, if he fights against 10 of them alone, his chances of winning would be very slim. The other party had the godly sea steadying needle restraining him. It was unrealistic to use the water bottle to kill the other party. Then, there was only a bloody battle left. The outcome of this battle was hard to predict. Even Ningfan did not even have a 30% chance of winning. However, as long as he was still standing here, the mutated tribe would not be able to take a single step into Ling Yun Pass. Be careful. This brat's eyes are ruthless. I'm afraid he wants to fight us to the death. Be careful to keep your distance from him. Although you have the East pacifying talisman bestowed by the great divine priest and won't be fixed by his Eastern sky ancestral technique, if you are pulled into the range of the cross-shaped halo, you will still be in danger. You will be attacked by his magical power. You must know that within its range, he can instantly unleash over 1,000 divine abilities, which is equivalent to having over 1,000 doppelgangers of the same level attacking the enemy at the same time. Its power cannot be met head-on, and the only way to do so is to distance yourself from it. There's one more thing we have to be careful of. This kid has many mid-grade innate magic treasures on him. Second brother, I'll lend you the fate-severing sword. My physical body has already been destroyed, so it's not advisable for me to expend too much strength. I can only stand by the side and watch over you to prevent this kid from escaping. Long Angua had a premonition that Ningfan was going to put up a desperate fight. He was worried that Ningfan would inflict more injuries on him. Thus, he could only watch from the side and let the mid-grade innate fate-severing sword be used by the second prince. As for himself, he spread a huge net of divine abilities between heaven and earth, sealing off all of Ningfan's escape routes. Currently, he could not exert much of his strength. Besides, he still had to prevent Ningfan from escaping. Thus, he naturally could not participate in the battle. However, in his opinion, even if he does not participate in the battle, the 9 immortal sovereigns on his side would be more than enough to deal with Ningfan. If the Dragon Horse Crown Prince doesn't make a move, this battle will be 1 against 9. Jiangong, Jiangong, Jiangong. A fiery red immortal emperor of the fiery toad race suddenly swelled up its stomach and let out a strange cry like a bull. He was an 8th tribulation immortal emperor. Even though he was not an expert among the 8th tribulation immortal emperors, he was not an ordinary 7th tribulation immortal emperor. The abdomen of this immortal emperor of the fiery toad race swelled up to a certain extent. All of a sudden, his eyes turned fierce. He opened his mouth and spurted out a mouthful of scarlet poisonous liquid. Ningfan could only feel waves of fishy wind blowing at his face. In an instant, he was enveloped by the poisonous liquid that blotted out the sky. What a fast poison attack! Besides, not only was the speed of this poisonous liquid extremely fast, but its toxicity also gave Ning Fan a sense of danger. If it wasn't because Ning Fan cultivated the poison Yin-Yang poison, given his immortal venerable realm cultivation base, he would probably be severely injured just by smelling the fishy wind. Rumble. Ning Fan ignored the poisonous liquid that hit his true body. He continuously attacked with the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, causing the poisonous liquid that blotted out the sky to explode, turning it into poisonous rain that sprinkled on the surface of the river. This made those low-grade foreign races that were hiding in the shallow waters suffer. When the poisonous rain melted into the water, hundreds of thousands of foreign races were poisoned to death. The Master of Poison. No, it's not the true Master of Poison. However, it won't be easy to hurt him with poison attacks. The eyes of the immortal emperor of the fiery toad race turned grim. At the same time when Ning Fan destroyed the attack of the fiery toad race's immortal emperor, the immortal emperors of the Thunder Shark clan and the Black Crocodile clan had already sent out 2 rays of divine light at Ning Fan from both sides. The divine light of the Thunder Shark clan's immortal emperor was a ray of purple lightning light, while the attack of the Black Crocodile clan's immortal emperor was a ray of water divine light that could corrode everything in the world. Almost at the same time when Ning Fan repelled the poisonous liquid that blotted out the sky, the 2 attacks had already reached him. Ning Fan could not withdraw his fist force in time, and the 2 attacks hit his eternal true body. These 2 immortal emperors were both 6th Tribulation immortal emperors. Even if they joined forces, they could not break the defense of Ning Fan's eternal true body. Both of them were deeply shocked by the scariness of Ning Fan's true body. Even though they did not directly break the defense of Ning Fan's true body, the golden flames on his true body dimmed and weakened for a moment. If the enemies were only these 2 immortal emperors, Ning Fan could have just mediated with them for a while and he would be able to buy some time for the dimmed golden flames to recover to their original state. However, the enemies were 10 immortal emperors. They attacked Ning Fan one after another, not planning to give him a chance to breathe at all. Just as the attacks from the Thunder Shark clan and the Black Crocodile clan ended, another heavy punch landed on Ning Fan's back. It was a 100-eyed giant whose body was covered with aquatic plants. There was a string of gigantic skulls hanging around his neck. He was a 6th Tribulation immortal emperor of the Heavenly Eye clan. The members of the Heavenly Eye clan were not good at using divine abilities, but they were good at body refinement. Thus, the timing of the punch was perfect. When the golden flames on Ning Fan's eternal true body dimmed, the punch arrived. Under the impact of the force of the punch, it actually injured Ning Fan's eternal true body, causing him to spurt out blood. Ning Fan's eyes were indifferent and emotionless, as if he was not the one who was injured. Within the range of the cross-shaped light circle, he formed hundreds and thousands of divine abilities and attacked the 100-eyed giant behind him. Even though the 100-eyed giant's sneak attack was successful, it had stepped into the range of Ning Fan's cross-shaped light circle because it was a close-range attack. Seeing that Ning Fan's body did not budge at all after receiving his full-force attack when his defense was broken and he only spurted out a mouthful of blood, he was inwardly shocked. When he saw that the destructive divine abilities inside the cross-shaped light circle had sealed off all of his escape routes and were coming at him from all directions, the 100-eyed giant's face instantly turned pale. He roared, "Fellow Taoist, save me!" There was no need for the 100-eyed giant to ask for help. Seeing that the 100-eyed giant's sneak attack had succeeded but he was trapped in Ning Fan's cross-shaped light circle, 2 of the Dragon Horse Princes had already used their divine abilities to teleport the 100-eyed giant out of the range of the light circle and evaded Ning Fan's attack. Then, the second prince of the Dragon Horse clan wielded the fate-severing sword and slashed at him from afar, preventing Ning Fan from having the chance to chase after the 100-eyed giant. Ning Fan's true body waved his hand and summoned his sun, moon and stars steel to block the sword light of fate-severing. However, he did not have any time to breathe. When the second prince missed his attack, the third and fourth princes spat out endless flames at him. The truly perfect teamwork did not require all of them to attack at the same time. Instead, they would allocate their positions reasonably. Some of them would be the main attacker while the others would be the support. They would attack in batches and take turns to exchange positions, not giving the enemy any chance to breathe. The current situation was exactly like this. The immortal emperors of the foreign races in front of him must have practiced how to deal with Ning Fan in advance. Otherwise, it was impossible for them to cooperate so perfectly. No matter how Ning Fan counterattacked, these immortal emperors could instantly find their positions to attack and defend. With such tacit cooperation, they would even have a chance to kill a first-level demigod realm demigod. Ning Fan's techniques were greatly restrained. Now that he was fighting against a group of immortal emperors with his mere immortal venerate cultivation base, he actually felt a much greater pressure compared to when he faced the 16 immortal emperors of the foreign races previously. I'm not willing to accept this. I'm not willing to accept this. Under the tacit cooperation of the enemies, Ning Fan defended more than he attacked. Moreover, his eternal ancient true body would be injured by the enemy's attacks from time to time. His injuries were getting more and more severe. At this moment, Ning Fan forgot about the danger of the battle and his injuries that were getting more and more severe. Despite being in a disadvantageous situation, Ning Fan did not have the slightest intention of surrendering. Instead, a monstrous devil intent was occupying his heart. It was the unyielding devil intent of the ancient devil that wanted to destroy everything. I can't lose. The soaring cloud mountain pass is right behind me. If I lose, all of my subordinates will die. Ning Fan threw out the ancient devil mountain breaking punch one after another. The momentum of his punches became stronger and stronger. When the ancient devil mountain breaking punch reached 3,000 consecutive hits, Ning Fan seized the opportunity and punched the physical body of the 100-eyed giant that was sneakily attacking him again, causing it to explode. He withstood the 100-eyed giant's sneak attack head-on and suffered severe injuries. Even so, he still managed to kill the 100-eyed giant despite his injuries. This 100-eyed giant did not have a true spirit. It was just an ordinary immortal emperor's demon soul. When its physical body exploded, Ning Fan directly captured its demon soul and threw it into the divine refining cauldron that was circling around him to refine it to death. The immortal emperors of the foreign races were shocked. Ning Fan actually wanted to kill an immortal emperor even at the risk of suffering severe injuries. Could this man be a madman? All along, the impression that Ning Fan left on the immortal emperors of the foreign races was his endless means. However, at this moment, these immortal emperors realized for the first time that Ning Fan's most terrifying feature was not his means but his crazy style of doing things. At this moment, Ning Fan was completely controlling his ancient devil cultivation base. What was emitting from his body was not the usual red light of the calamity blood. Instead, it was the filthy and evil black essence chi. The benefits of killing the 100-eyed giant at the risk of suffering severe injuries were extremely great. Ning Fan cultivated the life-killing technique. At the moment he killed the 100-eyed giant, he absorbed its flesh and blood essence chi, causing his cultivation base to skyrocket for a short period of time. How did his chi become stronger? Some of the immortal emperors of the foreign races were shocked. It's the ancient devil's life-killing technique. Long Angguo was very experienced. He immediately recognized the reason why Ning Fan's chi became stronger. His expression changed. That was a great ability that only the Lord of the Devil Conferral Summit could learn. Why did Ning Fan know it? As soon as the second prince of the Dragon Horse heard that Ning Fan was actually using the life-killing technique, he was also shocked. Don't let him devour the flesh and blood of fellow Taoist divine eyes. If he uses the life-killing technique to heal his injuries, the injuries that we had painstakingly inflicted on him would be in vain. The life-killing technique can also heal injuries? How could Ning Fan not know about it? However, at this moment, Ning Fan did not have the time to care about the second prince's words. After killing the 100-eyed giant, his chi had increased tremendously. The destructive power of each of his ancient Devil Mountain Breaking Strikes attacks had increased by more than 30%. So what if they are severely injured? I don't care anymore. I want to kill more immortal emperors. I want to kill more enemies. I want to defend the Ling Yun Pass. Boom, the third prince of the dragon horse, took out a piece of dragon bone that he had refined for many years and sent Ning Fan flying while coughing out blood. Ning Fan did not defend himself against the attack of the dragon bone. Instead, he used the momentum of his flight to fly towards the other crown prince of the dragon horse, the sixth prince of the dragon horse. A second ago, the sixth prince was still sneering at Ning Fan, who was sent flying by his sixth brother in a disheveled manner. At the next second, his expression changed. He saw Ning Fan, who was flying towards him while coughing out blood. That expression was something that even the most fearless devil lord would not be able to fake. That was a madness that completely disregarded life and death. That was a defiance that would drag all the immortal emperors down to hell together with him, even if he had to die here today. Ning Fan's vision was covered by the blood that flowed down from his forehead. The world seemed to have turned blood red in an instant. However, due to his severe injuries, heaven and earth shook and his vision became blurred. In his blurred vision, Ning Fan only locked onto the sixth prince of the dragon horse and ignored the attacks from the others. The fourth prince released his fire dragon tendon and entangled the left leg of Ning Fan's true body, trying to stop him from getting closer to the sixth prince. Ning Fan directly broke his left leg and broke free from the entanglement of the fire dragon tendon, continuing to move forward. The purple lightning divine nail of the Thunder Shark clan penetrated Ning Fan's chest, causing blood to flow out like a pillar. However, it still could not stop Ning Fan from moving forward. Seeing that Ning Fan wanted to get closer to him at all costs, the sixth prince's body trembled. He was intimidated by Ning Fan's almost crazy behavior. He unleashed his full speed, trying to retreat. However, Ning Fan's speed was faster than him. The distance between them was getting shorter and shorter. He released all of his innate dragon fire, turning it into a firewall that enveloped Ning Fan within. However, at the next moment, Ning Fan directly rushed out of the firewall like a man made of fire and landed a punch on the body of his giant dragon. It was the 3,200th punch of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. 3,200 punches were Ning Fan's limit. 3,200 punches would cause a backlash to his body, which was beyond his limit. Ning Fan did not have the mood to repeat the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike from the beginning. He insisted on exchanging injuries for injuries. He insisted on attacking the enemy with the 3,200th punch that was beyond his limit. It was not an attack that the sixth prince of the dragon horse, who was at the seventh tribulation realm, could withstand. His giant dragon body was directly destroyed by Ning Fan. His blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Ning Fan captured his true spirit, planted a restriction on it and threw it into the profound Een world. Another immortal emperor was killed. Under the enhancement of the killing technique, Ning Fan's chi became stronger. His magic power was so vast that it was not any weaker than an ordinary sixth tribulation immortal emperor. Despite being at a disadvantage, Ning Fan still managed to kill 2 immortal emperors in a row despite being severely injured. Such an achievement shocked each of the immortal emperors of the foreign races. All of a sudden, none of them actually dared to attack Ning Fan while he was gasping for breath. One of his legs is broken. His speed is not as fast as before. His injuries are even more severe. He is already an arrow at the end of its flight. Don't be frightened by his achievement of killing 2 immortal emperors in a row. It's impossible for him to kill another one. Quickly kill him. Don't give him any time to recover. Long Angua shouted angrily. As soon as he said that, the fear on the faces of all the immortal emperors of the foreign races disappeared. They regained their cold killing intent. They wanted to kill Ning Fan in one fell swoop while he was weakened. Among them, the immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan was the first to rush out. Let this old man kill him. The immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan was the first to rush out. He swallowed Ning Fan into his abdomen, trying to refine Ning Fan to death in his body. He was doing so out of selfish motives. He wanted to devour all of the essence of Ning Fan's flesh and blood. Then he could secretly learn all of Ning Fan's abilities and techniques. If Ning Fan was at his peak, he certainly would not dare to devour him alive. However, didn't Lord Long Angua say that Ning Fan was already an arrow at the end of its flight? Saint Poison Smelting. The immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan displayed his great abilities. He used up a drop of the most precious poison in his abdomen just to smelt Ning Fan's body. When Long Angua and the other immortal emperors saw that the immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan had even used up the Saint Poison, their expressions changed. As the name suggested, the Saint Poison was a drop of fierce poison left by the ancestor of the Fire Toad clan to this day. Using the poison of the Saint Poison to kill Ning Fan was naturally not impossible. However, the Fire Toad clan had a secret technique. By devouring the flesh and blood of the enemy, there was a chance for them to obtain the enemy's abilities and techniques. Everyone could see that the immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan did not hesitate to use the Saint Poison to devour Ning Fan in order to secretly learn his various heaven-defying techniques. When they thought that this immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan might learn Ning Fan's cross-shaped halos and other techniques, Long Angua and the others could not help but feel a little jealous of the good luck of the immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan. Has that young man been killed by the Saint Poison? Even though Long Angua believed in the power of the Saint Poison, he still asked another question. Of course, he has been killed. Now, that young man has already turned into a pool of pus and blood in my stomach. He has already... The immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan was sneering. All of a sudden, his complexion turned extremely pale. Cold sweat broke out on the face of the gigantic toad. He opened his mouth and was tongue-tied, unable to utter a single word for a long time. What's wrong? The other immortal emperors were shocked and asked. However, the immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan did not answer them. It was because he no longer had the chance to answer them. Ning Fan threw out 100 ancient Devil Mountain breaking punches in one go with the frequency of tens of punches per second inside his stomach. The immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan, who was still complacent just a moment ago, had his physical body disintegrated at the next moment. His demon soul was captured by Ning Fan from the inside and was tossed into the divine refining cauldron to be refined to death. Another immortal emperor was killed. However, the price Ning Fan paid was also extremely heavy. His current appearance was incomparably terrifying. Large areas of his flesh and blood were festering, revealing deep white bones. His left leg was broken by him, and half of his face was poisoned by the immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan. Poisonous blood flowed out from his wounds. A large number of low-grade foreign races would be poisoned to death no matter where the drop of poison reached. Even though Ning Fan had cultivated the yin-yang poison, he was still severely injured by the drop of Saint's violent poison that had been passed down by the immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan for many years. If it wasn't because this drop of Saint's violent poison had been passed down for a long time and its power was less than 10%, Ning Fan would certainly have been killed by the Saint's poison. At this moment, his badly mutilated appearance was incomparably hideous. The only thing that remained unchanged was his devil eyes, which were filled with monstrous battle intent. After killing the immortal emperor of the Fire Toad clan, Ning Fan's aura force rose steadily. That kind of rise had even exceeded the limit that Ning Fan could bear. However, Ning Fan did not care about that anymore. He knew that if the enhancement of the killing technique exceeds the endurance of his physical body, it would result in a huge backlash. However, if he could not break through the current dangerous situation, everything he did was just empty talk. What difference would it make if he suffered a backlash or not? He allowed the meridians in his body to rupture and his primordial spirit to burst, leaving behind injuries. He did not have time to recover his broken left leg. He directly stepped on the sky with one leg and flew towards the immortal emperor of the Thunder Shark clan. Not good. This lunatic wants to kill me this time. Overwhelmed with shock, the immortal emperor of the Thunder Shark clan spat out his natal lightning, trying to smash Ning Fan into pieces. There were also a few immortal emperors who helped the immortal emperor of the Thunder Shark clan from the side. Their attacks landed on Ning Fan's body, penetrating his eternal true body. However, none of them could stop him from advancing. Half of Ning Fan's head was smashed. However, he still maintained the unyielding battle intent of an ancient devil. He passed through the concentrated lightning attacks and threw out tens of punches in an instant, killing the immortal emperor of the Thunder Shark clan. The divine refining cauldron directly refined the immortal emperor of the Thunder Shark clan to death. This was the fourth immortal emperor that Ning Fan had killed. However, he felt that he no longer had any extra strength to kill the other immortal emperors. He obviously did not have any extra strength, and he was already on the verge of death. However, this near-death state seemed to have elevated his killing technique to a whole new level. It was no longer the fusion of the Tao of techniques and the Tao of techniques. Instead, it was the fusion of the Tao of techniques and the Tao of senses. Under this kind of strange enlightenment, Ning Fan's wounds actually felt numb. He did not know why. Chapter 1130. Unfortunately, Ning Fan did not have the time to carefully sense the subtle changes in his body. If he was on the verge of death, the killing art would have another function, which was to devour the enemy's blood to heal his injuries. However, this required countless life and death battles in order to gradually cultivate it. Unfortunately, since Ning Fan stepped onto the path of cultivation, he did not have many near-death experiences. Thus, he had yet to cultivate the healing effect of the killing art. He did not have the mood to comprehend the killing art. He did not have the mood to care about the feeling of weakness in his body. The effect of battle yin-yang was activated at this moment. Although he was on the verge of death, his fighting spirit was unprecedentedly high. His eyes were burning with the flames of battle. Although his physical body was severely injured and weak, his mind was as good as new under the nourishment of the spirit-recovering rice. There was no sign of exhaustion. The ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike was a body technique. If his physical body was weak, it would be difficult for him to exert its power. Due to the excessive loss of blood, he could no longer use his fists. However, as long as his mind was still clear and his magic power was endless, he could still rely on his magical treasures and divine abilities to fight his enemies to the end even if he could not use his body technique. There are still 6 more people. Ning Fan's killing intent did not diminish. With a thought, a black immortal cloud appeared under the feet of his eternal true body. Currently, his physical strength was exhausted and one of his legs was broken. Without time to recover, his speed was a problem. He did not have the strength to use his physical body to move. Fortunately, he still had the black immortal cloud. As long as he had enough magic power, he could still maintain a high speed that was far beyond ordinary immortal emperors. Is this man a monster? He is already in such a state, but he still has such strong battle intent. Long Angua and the other immortal emperors were deeply shocked. That shock turned into endless fear, making their desire to kill Ning Fan even stronger. This man could still kill immortal emperors when he was weak and on the verge of death. If they let him go today, he would certainly cause trouble for generations to come. This man must be killed. His existence was enough to affect the great divine priest's plan to conquer Eastern Heaven. I don't believe that you can kill the 5th immortal emperor in such a weak state. The second prince of Dragon Horse shouted and controlled the fate-severing sword to slash at Ning Fan from a distance. Among the rest of the emperors, other than Long Angua who was standing guard, all of them participated in the operation to besiege Ning Fan. They wanted to take advantage of Ning Fan's weakened state to kill him. He used the sun, moon, and star steel to block the second prince's slash. Then, he used the 7 treasures wondrous tree to send the Black Crocodile clan's immortal emperor flying. Then, he used the 1,000-hook jade sea-defying sword that was surrounded by 8 types of Tao laws to attack the 4th prince of the Dragon Horse, causing him to spurt out blood and fly backward. Then, he used an incomparably domineering flame lightning fire pillar to burn the 3rd prince of the Dragon Horse to a crisp. Ning Fan had captured too many Dragon Horse crown princes. The innate dragon flames of each of them had become nourishment for Ning Fan's flame lightning. Due to the fact that his flame lightning possessed the attribute of the fire of adversity beast, it could advance through devouring flames. Currently, the destructive power of his flame lightning was not much weaker than a single type of mid-grade innate flame. Naturally, its destructive power was terrifying. It was far stronger than when he first came to Taiyuan Crossing. You were careless and forgot about me. Divine concealment, heavenly shadow bite. It was a sixth tribulation immortal emperor from the Heavenly Shadow clan. He suddenly moved stealthily behind Ning Fan and opened his gigantic mouth, trying to bite Ning Fan's eternal true body in half. Judging from his appearance, the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan looked like a gigantic black mud monster. However, the sharpness of his teeth was not soft at all. Instead, they were as sharp as innate magic treasures. Currently, Ning Fan's eternal true body had been severely injured by the holy poison. If the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan managed to sneak an attack on him, his physical body would probably be bitten into pieces. The divine concealment technique of the Heavenly Shadow clan was even more powerful. Even ordinary 7th Tribulation and 8th Tribulation immortal emperors would have a hard time seeing through their concealment technique. Unfortunately, this level of concealment technique could not hide from the senses of Ning Fan's rain technique at all. The countless water vapors in the atmosphere above the boundary river were all Ning Fan's rain sense. During the matter of the primordial core realm, Ning Fan had seen through the divine concealment technique of the Heavenly Shadow clan. Today, the divine concealment technique could not hide from his eyes either. The corner of Ning Fan's mouth curled into a mocking smile. He knew that there must be an enemy immortal emperor who wanted to take advantage of his weak physical body to approach him and take his life. Ning Fan had used almost all of his means to deal with the other 4 immortal emperors of the foreign races. Moreover, because of his depleted strength, it was impossible for him to turn around and attack the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan like what he did to the 100-eyed giant. This immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan's sneak attack was too fast. It was so fast that Ning Fan's cross-shaped light ring did not even have the time to condense a divine ability to block the attack. Fortunately, Ning Fan still had a trump card. Just as immortal Emperor Tian bit down, he suddenly felt a strong force of the Palm realm. After being hit by that force, immortal Emperor Tian felt dizzy and his eyes were spinning. Then he disappeared from heaven and earth. He was forcefully locked into the void space of the Palm realm of the Stone Man's Eye by Ning Fan. Ning Fan also entered the void space of the Stone Man's Eye. He kept all of his magic treasures and followed the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan into the Stone Man's Eye in a flash. The Stone Man's Eye was a treasure that Ning Fan obtained in the Supreme Pill Sacred region. It was a severely damaged void space of the Palm realm. It was very difficult to deal with a high-level immortal emperor with a void space like this. However, it was still somewhat effective against a mere 6th Tribulation immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan. Seeing that Ning Fan was still able to lock the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan into another world even though he was in such a weakened state, Long Angua and the others were all shocked. One should know that even a medium Kiliacosm treasure could not forcefully take away an immortal emperor. Moreover, what Ning Fan used was obviously not a world treasure. Due to the activation of the Stone Man's Eye, countless Tao laws of the Palm realm of heaven and earth turned into thousands of strands of silk ribbons and fell from the sky. It's actually the void space of the Palm realm. This young man has actually cultivated the void space of the Palm realm and locked fellow Taoist Hai Ying inside it. I can't believe that he could wait until now to use this trump card. The expression of the 4th prince of the Dragon Horse race changed drastically. This is bad. The void space of the Palm realm is a technique that only great sovereigns can use. It's extremely powerful. Even if all of us are locked inside the void space of the Palm realm, we will still be in an extremely dangerous situation. Fellow Taoist Hai Ying is just a 6th Tribulation immortal emperor. If she is locked inside the void space alone, she will almost certainly die. That's the Palm realm we're talking about. The immortal emperor of the Black Crocodile clan wore an extremely unpleasant expression. It's extremely difficult to break the void space of the Palm realm from the outside world. Unless we also have an immortal emperor at the Palm realm or someone whose cultivation base is 6 to 7 levels higher than that young man surnamed Ning, we won't be able to tear open his void space in a short period of time. Otherwise, we will need a lot of time to break open a crack and enter the void space of the Palm realm. This is troublesome. We don't have that much time to slowly tear open this young man's void space. I'm afraid that fellow Taoist Hai Ying won't be able to hold on for long. What should we do? The third prince's face turned extremely gloomy. Big brother, what should we do? The second prince immediately shifted his gaze to Long Angua. Long Angua's expression was filled with shock. He was also shocked by the gimmick of Ning Fan's void space. One should know that the two words Palm Realm was a huge gap to an immortal emperor. A great sovereign who possessed the void space of the Palm Realm could fight against many experts at the same level as him. If Ning Fan really cultivated the void space of the Palm Realm, he would have to consider and retreat for the time being even if he had the upper hand in today's battle. However, when Long Angua carefully observed the Tao law of the Palm Realm of heaven and earth, he was suddenly stunned. Then, all of his fear disappeared and he burst into laughter. Don't be fooled by this young man. This Palm Realm of the Palm Realm of the Palm Realm is not something that the young man surnamed Ning cultivated himself. No one knows where he picked it up from. Moreover, the void space of this Palm Realm is not in perfect condition. Instead, it is severely damaged. As long as we combine our strength, it won't be difficult to destroy this Palm Realm of the Palm Realm. As soon as Long Angua said that, the other immortal emperors heaved a sigh of relief. Their battle intent surged again. Rumble. This time, even Long Angua did not plan to hold back anymore. He joined the group of immortal emperors and attacked together. They wanted to destroy the void space of the Palm Realm of the Palm Realm as soon as possible and rescue the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Under the combined attack of Long Angua and the other 4 immortal emperors, the half-destroyed void space of the Palm Realm of the Palm Realm of the Palm Realm was destroyed in just 6 breaths. It turned into countless fragments of the void and fell into the vast river. Ning Fan violently coughed out blood and fell from the void space of the Palm Realm. At the same time, the corpse of immortal Emperor Tianning, which had been smashed into a pile of flesh, also fell from the sky. Long Angua and the others were still a step too late. Ning Fan had already killed the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan. With a cracking sound, the stone man's eye that was hovering around Ning Fan cracked from the middle. Then, it turned into powder and disappeared along with the wind. Truly trash. This Hai Ying has only been trapped in the void space of the Palm Realm for 5 breaths. He was actually killed within that time. Long Angua was furious. He did not hesitate to use his true spirit foundation and magic power to destroy the void space of the Palm Realm of Ning Fan's Palm Realm. However, he still failed to rescue the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan. How could he not be angry? However, it was also normal that he could not rescue the immortal emperor. Ning Fan brought the sun, moon and stars steel, the ocean-defying sword and the tree of 7 wonders into the void space of the Palm Realm. Then he used the flame lightning to attack. A series of attacks landed on immortal Emperor Tianying's body. The damage it caused was no less than the 3,000 ancient devils breaking mountain attack. Killing a 6 tribulation immortal emperor within 5 breaths was not a miraculous thing at all. Right now, Ning Fan, who had obtained the killing technique to improve his cultivation base, had the strength to do such a thing. The pitiful immortal Emperor Tianying initially thought that he could launch a sneak attack on Ning Fan. However, he was killed by Ning Fan within 5 breaths. His cultivation base went down the drain and in the end, he became the 10,000 spirit blood in the divine refining cauldron. Ning Fan also suffered a great loss. Even though he managed to make the immortal emperor of the Heavenly Shadow clan be alone with the help of the Stone Man's Eye and killed him, his enemies also took the opportunity to destroy the Stone Man's Eye. Thus he lost this item forever. Even though the void space of the Palm Realm of the Stone Man's Eye was severely damaged, it could still allow Ning Fan to fully comprehend the Palm Realm of the Stone Man. If it was not destroyed, Ning Fan might be able to comprehend the mysteries of the Palm Realm of the Stone Man's Eye one day in the future. Now that the Stone Man's Eye was destroyed, he had lost this opportunity forever. However, there was nothing he could do about it. How could he obtain it if he was reluctant to part with it? As long as it could help him to turn the situation around, Ning Fan would not mind losing a mere Stone Man's Eye. Even though he was affected by the collapse of the void space of the Palm Realm and his injuries worsened, His aura force skyrocketed after killing another immortal emperor. Currently, the density of Ning Fan's magic power was no longer any weaker than a 7 Tribulation immortal emperor after killing 5 immortal emperors in a row. It was not something that Ning Fan's ancient devil cultivation base could withstand. His primordial spirit was already cracking. Blood essence and primordial spirit chi kept flowing out of his primordial spirit. Even his foundation was beginning to suffer damage. However, Ning Fan could no longer care about that. No matter what, he must protect the Ling Yun Pass today. He even had an evil thought. He wanted to take advantage of today's battle to eliminate all 16 immortal emperors of the Dragon Horse clan in one fell swoop and put an end to this long-standing grudge. There are still 5 of them. Long Angua, are you still not going to make your move? Under the influence of the ancient devil sense, Ning Fan let out a wild laugh. Then, he rode a dark immortal cloud and rushed towards the immortal emperor of the Black Crocodile clan. The immortal emperor of the Black Crocodile clan was just a 6th Tribulation immortal emperor. Ning Fan, on the other hand, had raised his cultivation base to the magic power of a 7th Tribulation immortal emperor through the life-killing technique. Just the aura force of his cultivation base alone was enough to make immortal Emperor Black Crocodile's expression change drastically. How would he dare to face Ning Fan's attack head-on? Long Angua's expression turned extremely unpleasant. He was enraged by Ning Fan's provocative words. At the same time, he was afraid that immortal Emperor Hei Crocodile would also be killed by Ning Fan. Thus, he disregarded the injuries of his true spirit and brazenly attacked immortal Emperor Hei Crocodile to save him. However, before Long Angua could fly far away, he lost control of his mind because of Ning Fan's provocation. Due to his carelessness, he fell into Ning Fan's illusion technique, causing his eyes to fall into a daze. Ning Fan, who was originally rushing towards immortal Emperor Hei Crocodile, narrowed his eyes. He suddenly changed his direction and rushed towards Long Angua instead. Attacking immortal Emperor Hei Chio was just a cover. Ning Fan's real target was Long and Country. No one expected that Ning Fan would choose Long Angua, who had the strongest cultivation base in this place, as his next target. If Long Angua's physical body was not destroyed and his cultivation base was not damaged, he would not fall into Ning Fan's illusion technique so easily. However, right now, he only had his true spirit left. To ordinary immortal emperors, if they were beaten to the point where only their primordial spirit and demon soul were left, they would be no different from a cripple. Even though Long Angua's true spirit was in a slightly better condition, it still greatly limited his strength because he only had his true spirit left. Due to his carelessness, it was not incomprehensible for him to be fooled by Ning Fan's illusion technique again. His sun, moon and star steel, ocean-defying sword, tree of 7 treasures, flame lightning. Ning Fan went all out, blocking all the attacks from the other 4 immortal emperors. Taking advantage of the moment when Long Angua was confused by the illusion technique, he approached him. The speed of the dark immortal cloud was very fast. It was far beyond the speed of the immortal emperors in this place. No one could save Long Angua in time. Ning Fan did not waste time talking to Long Angua. He directly took out the water flooding bottle and sucked Long Angua into it. Under normal circumstances, Ning Fan would not use the water flooding bottle to suck people in. However, it did not mean that the water flooding bottle did not have this function. It was very risky to suck the enemy into the water flooding bottle. It might give the enemy a chance to destroy the bottle from the inside. If Long Angua resisted, Ning Fan would not be able to suck Long Angua away at all with his current magic power of the 7 Tribulations realm. Fortunately, Long Angua was under the illusion technique. Even though the illusion technique could only confuse Long Angua for a moment, it was enough for Ning Fan to trap him in the water flooding bottle. While Ning Fan was controlling the sun, moon and star steel to deal with the other 4 immortal emperors, he was channeling most of his magic power into the water flooding bottle with all his might. The other 4 immortal emperors wanted to snatch the water flooding bottle to save Long Angua, but how could they succeed? Currently, Ning Fan had used the life-killing technique to increase his strength. Besides, his techniques were extremely powerful. How could these people defeat him? The world inside the bottle. Long Angua shouted and woke up from the illusion technique. On one hand, he despised the low grade of Ning Fan's illusion technique. On the other hand, he sighed at Ning Fan's profound attainments in illusion technique. The small eyes of his true spirit scanned the surroundings. At this moment, all his expressions froze and turned into astonishment. The world inside the bottle was filled with raging waves. Of course, it was because Ning Fan was channeling his magic power into the bottle with all his might. Waves after waves of the defying Qin Si swept towards Long Angua. Long Angua was careless and was hit by one of the waves. He immediately coughed out blood and his expression changed drastically. The impact of a single wave was like countless cultivation planets crashing into him. Even if he still had his physical body, he would not be able to withstand the impact of the waves. At this moment, it was even more impossible for him to withstand the impact of the waves with his mere true spirit. Moreover, these waves were too familiar to him. They looked so familiar that it terrified him. These waves were clearly the strange waves that Ning Fan used to flood the world last time. Damn it! This brat is too cunning. He knows that I have placed the sea-steadying divine needle outside and I can't launch any attacks from the outside. Thus, he directly kept me into his bottle world. Even though the sea-steadying divine needle can restrict the water element attacks within a certain range, it can't restrict the circulation of the water elemental energy inside the enemy's magic treasure. If this brat drowns me in the bottle world, he won't be restricted by the sea-steadying divine needle at all. He won't even be restricted by the immortal emperor's seal in the realm river. Not good. I must not be trapped in this place. Otherwise, I will definitely die. I must break this bottle world and escape from it. At this moment, Long Angua only wanted to survive. How could he care about damaging the foundation of his true spirit? He used all of his remaining magic power, turning them into peerless abilities that constantly attacked the spatial barrier of the bottle world. Ning Fan's magic power was boundless. He activated the defying Qin Si waves and blocked most of Long Angua's attacks. However, there were still some attacks that hit the spatial barrier of the bottle world, creating countless cracks in the bottle world. However, Long Angua was not having a good time either. As he attacked with all his might, it was inevitable for him to neglect his defense. As a result, he was hit by several waves in a row. His true spirit was severely injured and he coughed out blood continuously. However, he still spared no effort in attacking the bottle world in an attempt to survive. This was a life-and-death battle. Either Ning Fan drowned Long Angua in the bottle world, or Long Angua broke Ning Fan's water-drowning world bottle and escaped from it. In the outside world, Ning Fan was holding the other four immortal emperors back with his tremendous firepower. He was concentrating on fighting Long Angua, who was trapped in the bottle world through the water-drowning bottle. The surface of the water-drowning bottle was covered with cracks. The more conspicuous cracks were like fine spider webs, while the less conspicuous ones were like the greenish-white flowers on the porcelain vases. As the number of cracks continued to increase, the power of the water-drowning bottle continued to be damaged. Ning Fan would not repair this kind of damage. If the damage was severe to a certain extent, the water-drowning bottle might be completely destroyed in this battle, losing all possibilities of repairing it. It could be said that Ning Fan had taken a huge risk by sucking Long Angua into the water-drowning bottle. If he was careless, he would lose the water-drowning bottle forever. During the battle, Ning Fan took some time to eat some spirit-recovering rice. As long as his mind and spirit were not exhausted, his magic power would be endless. Long Angua was at a great disadvantage in this aspect. His magic power had a limit. Moreover, he was in the bottle world. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to absorb the power of heaven and earth to restore his magic power from the bottle world controlled by Ning Fan. Time passed by slowly. In the blink of an eye, several hours had passed. The water-drowning bottle had been half destroyed by Long Angua. One had to admit that Long Angua was really tenacious. He was still alive after being attacked by the waves in the bottle for several hours. However, Long Angua was still dragged to his limit. His magic power had been depleted by the bottle world. Even though he would consume some pills and heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures to restore his magic power, how could the speed of recovery be faster than the speed of his magic power consumption? As a true spirit, he could not use too much magic power in the first place. After using magic power for 8 hours consecutively, his true spirit had suffered a huge backlash. In addition, the waves would hit him from time to time. His true spirit was so weak that he could not even open his eyes. Finally, another wave that reached the sky swept towards him. He failed to break the wave and evade it. He was swept into the bottom of the earth-defying sea by the wave and let out a miserable shriek. In the outside world, Ning Fan's eyes lit up with joy. After several hours of exhausting his magic power, he finally suppressed Long Angwa's true spirit at the bottom of the water-drowning bottle. This was the first time he killed a male 9 Tribulation Immortal Emperor head-on. However, he also paid a huge price for it. One had to admit that the true spirit of the Dragon Horse clan was really powerful. It was directly suppressed at the bottom of the water-drowning bottle, but it was still not crushed to death. Fortunately, the weak and dying Long Angwa could not escape from the bottom of the sea at all, let alone continue to attack the bottle world. He had already become Ning Fan's prisoner. In this way, there were only 4 immortal emperors left to deal with. The remaining 4 immortal emperors still did not know that Long Angwa had already been suppressed by the earth-defying sea. They were still hoping that Long Angwa could escape from the bottle and save them. Even though Ning Fan had killed Long Angwa, he still activated an illusion technique to disguise himself on the water-drowning bottle. On the surface, the cracks on the bottle were still increasing. It looked like Long Angwa was still struggling in the bottle world. Damn it! Why hasn't Big Brother escaped from the bottle yet? I have lost a lot of magic power. I can't hold on for much longer. The second prince of the Dragon Horse clan looked extremely anxious. The fate-severing sword was a mid-grade innate magic treasure. It consumed a lot of magic power. The second prince was not Ning Fan, who had endless magic power. After several hours of bitter battle, his magic power was already depleted and he could no longer use the fate-severing sword. He could only use ordinary attacks to delay Ning Fan. Even though they still had 4 immortal emperors besieging Ning Fan, the situation was already very disadvantageous to them. The second prince and the others knew very well that if Long Angwa could escape from the water-drowning bottle, they might still have a chance to capture Ning Fan with his strength and means as a 9 Tribulation Immortal Emperor. However, if Long Angwa could not escape, they could only give up on their plan to kill Ning Fan even if they were unwilling to do so. They had no choice but to retreat once again. That Ning Brat's might is unstoppable. Why don't we retreat for now and come back to kill him after we find more helpers? Immortal Emperor Hey Crocodile advised. He already had the intention to retreat. Brother Crocodile, don't be afraid. If I'm not wrong, the cracks on that Ning Brat's bottle are almost at its limit. Big Brother will be able to escape from it soon. Let's wait a little longer. Don't be in a hurry to retreat. Let's wait for Big Brother to escape first. The third prince rejected Immortal Emperor Hey Crocodile's suggestion. What third brother said is right. That Ning Brat's mind is connected to the bottle. If Big Brother can destroy this bottle, his injuries will certainly worsen and completely exceed his limit. At that time, there's no need for us to do anything. Ning Brat's physical body will directly collapse because of the accumulated injuries. On the contrary, if we retreat now, that Ning Brat will be able to deal with Big Brother who is trapped in the bottle. If that's the case, Big Brother will be in danger. The fourth prince echoed. The second prince hesitated for a moment. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "That's right. We can't abandon Big Brother. Let's wait a little longer. When Big Brother breaks the water-drowning bottle, we will be able to turn the situation around." The Black Crocodile clan sighed. It was too late for him to regret getting involved in this mess. However, the situation was already hard for him to back down. He certainly did not dare to abandon the Dragon Horse princes and escape alone. He was afraid that the other party would come after him. The few Dragon Horse princes did not listen to his advice and refused to retreat. He had no choice but to brace himself and continue fighting Ning Fan. Immortal Emperor He Crocodile silently prayed to the river god of the border river, praying that Long Angwa could break the water-drowning bottle and escape quickly to turn the situation around. However, he did not know that Long Angwa was already suppressed under the inverse mortal sea. They had already lost any hope of turning the tide. The bloody battle was still going on. The enemies were just 4 immortal emperors. Ning Fan was already able to deal with them with ease when he was attacking and defending. He rarely suffered injuries. As such, under the healing of the cross-shaped light circle, the terrifying injuries of his eternal true body were healing at an extremely fast speed. His broken leg gradually grew back. The half of his face that was smashed was also gradually recovering. Flesh and skin began to grow on the white bones. The wounds were healing bit by bit. In another few hours, Ning Fan had already recovered more than half of his injuries using his eternal true body. His golden flame giant body was as good as new. The remaining injuries were all internal injuries that were hard to heal. They were caused by the holy poison and could not be healed with conventional methods. The magic power of the enemies was getting lesser and lesser while Ning Fan's magic power was still bottomless. After recovering more than half of his injuries, he could already use the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike again. He found a gap and launched the 3000 ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, killing the Black Crocodile clan's immortal emperor. The Ling Yun Mountain Pass was filled with thunderous cheers. The enemies only had 3 immortal emperors left. No one expected that Ning Fan was actually about to win such a tough battle with such a great disparity in strength. Damn it! Why isn't Big Brother out yet? We really can't hold on any longer. The remaining 3 Dragon Horse Crown Princes lost their will to fight. If it wasn't because they still had the hope that Long Angwa was about to escape, they might have already turned around and fled. 4 immortal emperors could not take Ning Fan down. Now that there were only 3 of them left, their disadvantage was naturally even greater. Even though Ning Fan was fighting against 3 of them alone, he was still able to suppress them and beat them up violently. It might be hard to believe if it was spread out, but it was happening right now. After another hour, the 4th prince's physical body was penetrated by the ocean-defying sword due to a moment of carelessness. Thousands of heavenly magatama exploded inside his body, destroying his physical body. Ning Fan also captured his true spirit. There are still 2 more of them. The 2nd and 3rd princes were in despair. How could they still dare to wait for Long Angwa to escape? They were afraid that they would all be captured by Ning Fan before they could wait for that long. After making up their minds, they finally dived into the water of the Realm River and used the current to speed up their escape. How could Ning Fan let the 2 of them escape? He activated the treasure-searching compass and locked onto the 2 of them. He chased them all the way into the Realm River. The magic power of the 2 remaining Dragon Horse Princes was basically depleted. How could they be Ning Fan's match? They did not expect that Ning Fan, who was not a member of the Water Clan, could actually resist the magnetic force of the Realm River and move freely at the bottom of the river. Immediately, they were scared out of their wits. Ning Fan's speed was far faster than the 2 of them. While chasing after them, he attacked them at the same time. Very soon, he destroyed the 3rd prince's physical body and captured his true spirit. The 2nd prince's gigantic dragon body was already in tatters after being beaten by Ning Fan. His dark red sovereign blood was about to run out. The sparse amount of golden sovereign blood began to flow out, dyeing the waters along the way as if they were plated with a layer of gold. Holding the fate-severing sword in his mouth, he desperately tried to escape. His physical body was about to be destroyed by Ning Fan. His heart was filled with despair. Just as he was in despair, 2 immortal emperors suddenly swam towards him from the waters in front of him. The 2 of them sensed that Ning Fan had entered the water to kill more people. Hence, they came to stop him from killing the last Dragon Horse immortal emperor. Fellow Taoists, quickly save me! Hot tears flowed down from the 2nd prince's dragon eyes. It was the joy of seeing hope in the midst of despair. Of the 2 immortal emperors who came to save him, one was an immortal emperor from the Hai Kong clan while the other was an immortal emperor from the Fei Yi clan. Both of them had 6th Tribulation Realm cultivation bases and they came here to pick up the leftovers. From their point of view, Ning Fan was definitely an arrow at the end of its flight after fighting against the Dragon Horse clan for such a long time. Thus, they might as well come here to be the good guys and get a favor from the Dragon Horse clan. If they can capture Ning Fan, who had brought chaos to the 10 Paths, and report this to the Great Divine Priest, it would also be a great contribution. Fellow Taoist, don't worry. Watch me kill this brat with my Hai Kong Great Sword. Immortal Emperor Hai Kong activated his eternal true body. In an instant, he turned into a 100 zhang giant from the body of an ocean beast. He held a divine sword with purple runes in his hand and slashed at Ning Fan. Unfortunately, before the tip of his sword could reach Ning Fan, the sun, moon, and stars' steel had already smashed into him, sending him flying away along with his sword. While he was flying, he was spurting out blood. He was actually severely injured by Ning Fan in the first exchange of blows. Out of fear, Immortal Emperor Hai Kong directly fled. How would he still dare to save the second prince of the Dragon Horse clan? The Immortal Emperor of the Fei Yi clan let out a disdainful snort, as if he found Immortal Emperor Hai Kong's act of fleeing extremely shameful. The Fei Yi clan was a giant bird that lived in the sea. As soon as it spread its wings, it stirred up the waves and was about to use its divine ability to attack Ning Fan. At this moment, Ning Fan's ocean-defying sword arrived and cut off his left wing. The heavenly Magatama exploded along the wound, blowing up half of his body. Unfortunately, Ning Fan did not manage to hit the vital parts of his body. Otherwise, his entire physical body would certainly explode. Monster. The Fei Immortal Emperor was scared out of his wits by Ning Fan's sword. How would he still have the mood to laugh at Immortal Emperor Hai Kong? Ning Fan did not go after the Immortal Emperors of the Fei Yi clan and Hai Kong clan. If he was not mistaken, he had already attracted the attention of all the Immortal Emperors of the 11 Paths when he entered the Realm River in a hurry. A large number of Immortal Emperors were rushing towards this place. The Fei Yi clan and Hai Kong clan were not the only ones. At this moment, even though Ning Fan's injuries had mostly recovered, the vital parts of his body were still being corroded by the holy of poison. If he is besieged by another 10 Immortal Emperors, he would certainly die in the Realm River. Ning Fan knew the severity of the situation. He would not fight the other foreign races with his current severely injured body. He only planned to end the battle as soon as possible and capture the second prince. When the second prince saw Hai Kong clan and Fei Yi clan being defeated in a single exchange, the hope that he had just had was extinguished. He knew that he probably would not be able to wait for the other Immortal Emperors to rescue him. After his dragon tail was cut off by Ning Fan's sword, he made up his mind and decided to detonate the fate-severing sword in his mouth to kill Ning Fan. He was a mutated true spirit. Even if a mid-grade innate magic treasure explodes, he would only suffer severe injuries but would not die. Ning Fan, on the other hand, was different. Even though his external injuries were almost healed, his internal injuries were still being corroded by the holy of poison. If he is blasted by the explosion of the innate magic treasure again, it was not impossible for him to die on the spot. Since you insist on chasing me, I will make you pay the price. Even if I will be severely punished by the Great Divine Priest for destroying the fate-severing sword, I don't care anymore. Little Ning Fan, die. Under the second prince's frenzied detonation, the body of the fate-severing sword began to turn fiery red like a soldering iron. In the end, it exploded violently with a loud bang. In just an instant, the water region of millions of li was flattened by the explosive power of the magic treasure. All the river water evaporated and all the living beings of the Water Clan within the area perished. Ning Fan was also directly killed at the bottom of the dried-up water. Ha! In the end I still killed you. This is the price you have to pay for chasing me. Foolish ant of the eastern heaven, now you know how powerful I am. The second prince's true spirit was weak, but he did not die from the explosion. Instead, he looked at the ruins of the water region and laughed maniacally. He finally killed Ning Fan. So what if Ning Fan is heaven-defying? He still lost to the Dragon Horse clan. Delightful, delightful. Have you become so weak that you can't see the difference between reality and illusion techniques? How sad. Release. Ning Fan took the initiative to help the second prince break the illusion technique. The fate-severing sword did not explode at all. Everything was just the second prince's imagination. It was all an illusion. The second prince's physical body, on the other hand, was completely destroyed by Ning Fan's sea-defying sword when he was bewitched by the illusion technique. However, even if his physical body exploded, he still could not wake up from the illusion technique. Even the pain could not wake him up. He was too weak. With his current strength, he could no longer break Ning Fan's illusion technique. Impossible. You're clearly dead. How are you still alive? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Noisy. Ning Fan planted a restrictive spell on the second prince's mouth, which was screaming crazily. After sealing his cultivation base, he casually threw him into the profound Yin world and imprisoned him. At this point, he had defeated the 10 immortal emperors of the enemy in a single battle. After that, he had even captured all the immortal emperors of the Dragon Horse clan. The true spirits of the 16 immortal emperors were all in his hands. It was very difficult to kill a single true spirit of the Dragon Horse clan. However, it seemed like he could easily kill all of them by combining all 16 true spirits and using them to concoct the 16-heart pill. The pill concocted with the true spirits of the 16 immortal emperors of the Dragon Horse clan should be quite effective. Ning Fan removed his eternal true body and the cross-shaped halo. Then, he rode on the dark immortal cloud and left the bottom of the river at full speed. When the other immortal emperors of the foreign races chased after him, what they saw was Ning Fan destroying the second prince's dragon body with a single slash of his sword. They wanted to catch up with Ning Fan, but they could not catch up with his speed. On this day, the entire 11th water path fell into an unprecedented state of shock. On this day, the Taiyuan Pass was in an unprecedented state of shock. 10 immortal emperors and tens of millions of foreign races attacked the soaring cloud pass. In the end, they were completely wiped out by Ning Fan alone. Anyone who heard this news would be so shocked that their jaws would drop. When the news reached the divine palace at the bottom of the 6th water path, the great divine priest of the foreign races smashed the crystal table in anger. He had never expected that the small 11th water path would have such a heaven-defying immortal venerable whose name was Ning Fan. Yes, Ning Fan. He could not help but admit that he had memorized this name deeply at this moment. With the identity of a second-level quasi-saint, he had paid unprecedented attention to a mere immortal venerable. In this battle, his 2 mid-grade innate magic treasures, the fate-severing sword and the sea-pacifying divine needle, were both in Ning Fan's hands. He could not wait to get out of the water immediately and head to the soaring cloud pass of the 11th water path to take back these 2 treasures. However, he could not do it. It was because the immortal sovereign's seal was still there, preventing quasi-saints from getting out of the water. Moreover, due to the fact that there were many immortal emperors coming out of the water recently, he did not have too many quotas for the immortal emperors under him to get out of the water in a short period of time. It was not just the 11th water path. Even the other water paths did not have many quotas left. All of them had been used up by the immortal emperors of the 11th water path on Ning Fan. Detestable. Detestable. This young man is just an immortal venerable, but he actually made me so anxious. He actually messed up my plan completely. The threat he poses is actually much greater than those trash in the Taiyuan Pass. No wonder the dark race would suffer losses in his hands. No wonder that old thing Bai Zhu also said that there was an immortal venerable in the Eastern Heaven who was very difficult to deal with. It turns out that they did not lie to me. I have underestimated this young man too much. White Robe Yama. Pumph. What a white robe Yama. One day, I will turn you into a dead Yama. Pass down my order. The white-robed Yama, Ning Fan, will be listed at the top of my Z-Way Galaxy's must-kill list. If I don't get rid of this young man, I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Whoever kills this young man, I will request the blood god to help him to advance to the quasi-saint realm. His studies, long as they kill Ning Fan, they would get the chance to receive the blood god's bestowment and directly become a quasi-saint realm expert. How tempting was that? When the great divine priest's order spread across the eastern boundary river, countless experts of the foreign races were tempted. They wanted to take action immediately and claim Ningfan's head to claim credit. Unfortunately, there were not too many immortal emperors in the 11th water path in such a short period of time. Unfortunately, quasi-saints could not get out of the water either. Therefore, even though these experts of the foreign races wanted to make a contribution, they could not gather an army of immortal emperors to get out of the water together with them. Besides, they did not dare to provoke Ningfan recklessly. If they send too few immortal emperors, they would just be courting death. Fortunately, the great divine priest's order was still in effect. As long as they wait until the immortal sovereign's seal on the surface of the boundary river is completely broken, they could still get out of the water and besiege Ningfan even if they did not have the quota. At that time, it would not just be a dozen or so immortal emperors besieging Ningfan. It was highly possible that there would be tens of immortal emperors besieging Ningfan. Even quasi-saints might join the fight. In that case, all they needed to do was to wait patiently. The day the immortal sovereign's seal is broken would be the day the white-robed Yama is beheaded. While the foreign races were shocked by Ningfan's actions, countless people from the Taiyuan ferry were also sent to the Lingyun Pass. They wanted to get in touch with Ningfan and understand the details of the battle on that day. Unfortunately, Ningfan's injuries were too severe after the battle. He had already informed all the cultivators in the pass that he was going into seclusion and no one was allowed to disturb his recovery. Currently, Ningfan's prestige was extremely high due to his series of battle achievements. His words were even more effective than the leader of the alliance. Since he said that he was going into seclusion, no one naturally dared to disturb him. Even Emperor Tsang and the others had repeatedly reminded the Lingyun Pass not to disturb Ningfan's recovery. Everything must be done with Ningfan as the top priority. As for contacting them, they could wait until Ningfan's recovery is over. At this moment, everyone could see that Ningfan would be the Eastern Heaven's most important bargaining chip in the upcoming chaos in the Realm River. Ningfan's status as the strongest devil in Eastern Heaven had already been confirmed. No one doubted him. Moreover, some of them even called Ningfan the strongest person below the quasi-saint realm. Ningfan did not know about this. If he did, he would certainly reject this title. He knew that he was far from being the strongest person below the quasi-saint realm. What was there to be proud about killing a few immortal emperors? Even though the immortal emperors of the Realm River were stronger than the Eastern Heaven immortal emperors, they were much weaker compared to the real great ancient emperors. He did not forget the bitter battle with Black Rope. Black Rope was not an immortal emperor, but he was still not someone he could defeat. Black Rope was an ancient immortal king and he was already so powerful. In this world, there were more ancient immortal kings and immortal emperors who were stronger than Black Rope. How could he be arrogant? The strongest person below the quasi-saint realm. He would get this title one day, but not now. The holy poison's injuries were far more troublesome than he had imagined. After all, it was the divine ability of a saint realm expert. Even though the power of that drop of saint poison was less than 10%, it still made Ningfan feel unbearable pain. He could not really get rid of it. It was like maggots in his bones that were wreaking havoc inside his body. Even after exhausting all the means at his disposal, he was still unable to remove the saint poison. In desperation, Ningfan had no choice but to seek help from the ancient country trading formation to find a solution to the holy poison in his body. If he didn't get rid of the saint poison soon, he would be killed by it sooner or later. This Taoist wants to buy the third step's detoxification spirit pill? Could it be that fellow Taoist has fought against a sage before? The person who was in charge of receiving Ningfan was still the old man from the heaven-reaching cult. As soon as he heard that Ningfan actually wanted to purchase such a high-grade pill, he was immediately astonished. Inwardly, he wondered about Ningfan's true identity. Could he be a saint of some high-grade illusory dream world? Even if he wasn't a sage, he was probably an ancient emperor who could stand shoulder to shoulder with a sage. Otherwise, how could he have survived the poison of a sage? All of a sudden, the elderly man became even more enthusiastic towards Ningfan. There was even a hint of reverence in his eyes. After all, Existences at the level of a sage were also supreme beings even in the true world. Even if he was a disciple of the heaven-reaching cult, he would not dare to be disrespectful to such existences. Unfortunately, this elderly man did not know that Ning Fan was not a sage realm expert like he imagined. He was just poisoned by the sage poison due to certain reasons. Of course, Ning Fan would not be foolish enough to explain himself to the elderly man. The more highly the elderly man regarded him, the more convenient it would be for him to purchase items from the heaven-reaching cult. Logically speaking, the heaven-reaching cult would not sell pills that were too high-grade to the illusory dream world. However, if Ning Fan was an existence comparable to a sage realm expert, the elderly man could still give Ning Fan some privileges with his authority. Orders were dead while people were alive. In order to violate the purchase restriction and sell the third step's detoxification spirit pill to Ning Fan, this elderly man would have to bear a lot of pressure. However, when he thought about how he could befriend a third step expert with this matter, the pressure from the cult no longer seemed to be a problem to him. What was worth mentioning was that the price of the third step's detoxification spirit pill was extremely expensive. Ning Fan had used up all the heavenly Dao gold and silver he had and even owed the heaven-reaching cult a few hundred taels of heavenly Dao gold in order to buy this pill. Ordinary people were not allowed to buy things from the heaven-reaching cult on credit. This elderly man had used up a lot of his connections to give Ning Fan the privilege to buy the medicine on credit. Ning Fan's personality was extremely cold. However, he felt a little grateful towards this elderly man who helped him. "Fellow Taoist, thank you for your help. I will definitely repay your kindness," Ning Fan said with a serious expression. Business is business. This old man shall not be pretentious and accept your gratitude for the time being. If fellow Taoist can really come to the true world one day, I might come to your sect to ask for your help. I hope fellow Taoist won't reject my request at that time. True world? I might not necessarily go to the true world. Of course, if I have the chance to go to the true world, as long as fellow Taoist's request doesn't go against my principles, I will certainly not reject it. Even if I don't go, I will certainly think of some ways to repay the karma of today. You don't have to worry about this, fellow Taoist. Ning Fan did not ask about the elderly man's identity. The heaven-reaching cult did not allow their disciples to reveal their identities to outsiders. If Ning Fan had the chance to go to the true world, he would certainly have a way to find out the whereabouts of the elderly man and repay him. Unfortunately, he was really not sure whether he would go to the true world or not. Most likely, he would have to think of other ways to repay the karma. Who knows what will happen in the future? Who knows if fellow Taoist will really come to the true world? Let's not talk about this anymore. Is there anything else that fellow Taoist wants to buy? I still want to buy some ancient books that introduce different types of true spirits. These kinds of books aren't limited to our cult. I have a book called The Complete Explanation of the Chaotic Kuan True Spirit. It is an encyclopedic book that was passed down from the Chaotic Kuan sacred sect. It recorded most of the types of true spirits in the world since the first generation of the Chaotic Kuan sacred sect. Of course, this kind of book will not mention the true spirits that are related to the taboo of heaven and earth. The price of this book is 200 gold ingots. It is not cheap. Are you sure that you want to buy it? If you are, I can apply to the cult to let you buy this book on credit. If that's the case, I'll have to trouble fellow Taoist. I'm sure that I want to buy this book. With the third step detoxification spiritual pill, it became much easier for Ning Fan to treat the injuries caused by the holy poison in his body. It was a 10 transformations ancestral pill which was expensive. With the help of this pill, not only did Ning Fan get rid of all the poison in his body in one go, but he also took the opportunity to devour the remaining holy poison in his body. This was a good item that was hard to come by. If he did not have the help of the 10 transformations ancestral pill, he would not be qualified to devour the holy poison at all with his current cultivation base. Now that he had taken the opportunity to devour the holy poison, his yin-yang poison cultivation base naturally improved tremendously. There were 3 levels to the cultivation of the palm position of the 27 yin-yang poison. Small completion realm, mid-completion realm, and grand completion realm of the palm position. Among the 8 types of yin-yang that he had cultivated, only 4 of them had reached the small completion realm of the palm position: rain, dark, war, and wood. As for the other yin-yang poison, they were not even at the small completion realm of the palm position. At most, they only possessed a trace of the power of the palm position. After devouring the holy poison, Ning Fan's yin-yang poison broke through to the small completion realm of the palm position in one go and was much closer to the mid-completion realm of the palm position. Among all of Ning Fan's yin-yang poison, he became the 5th existence to attain the small completion realm of the palm position. In the future, if Ning Fan encounters immortal emperors who attack with poison again, he would have a much easier time dealing with them. After his injuries were healed, Ning Fan immersed himself in studying the complete explanation of the chaotic Kun true spirit for the next year. This book recorded the forms of tens of thousands of true spirits in the true world. Most of the records did not involve the great secrets of heaven and earth, but they were still very helpful to Ning Fan. The reason why Ning Fan bought this book was to find the records about the dragon horse true spirit and find out how to concoct pills with it. According to the records in this book, the dragon horse true spirit was a rather unique type of true spirit. It could only be cultivated by brothers who were of the same mind and cultivated the true spirit together. Once the true spirit is successfully cultivated, it would be very difficult to kill all of the brothers who cultivated the true spirit without capturing them. If they could be captured, the greater the number of dragon horses who cultivated the true spirit and the higher their cultivation base, the greater the benefits of the concocted pills. The 3-heart pill was concocted by more than 3 dragon horse immortal venerables. After consuming it, a mortal would become a thought fragmentation realm cultivator in a single step. The 7-heart pill was concocted by more than 7 dragon horse immortal kings. After consuming it, a mortal would become an immortal venerable in a single step. When an immortal venerable consumes it, their cultivation base would skyrocket by 1 level. The 16-heart pill was concocted by more than 16 dragon horse immortal emperors. After consuming it, a mortal would become an immortal king in a single step. When an immortal king consumes it, his cultivation base would skyrocket by 1 level. When an immortal venerable consumes it, his cultivation base would skyrocket by 1 level. When an immortal venerable consumes it, his cultivation base would skyrocket by 1 level. When an immortal venerable consumes it, he would directly break through to the 4th tribulation immortal king realm. When an immortal emperor consumes it, he would have a 30% chance of advancing by 1 level. When a quasi-saint consumes it, he would have a 5% chance of advancing by 1 level. Ning Fan was shocked by the records of the 16-heart pill. He had imagined the wonders of the 16-heart pill, but he didn't expect it to be such a heaven-defying pill. If a demisage consumed it, there was a 5% chance that he would advance by 1 realm. If a second-stage demisage consumed it, wouldn't it be possible for him to directly become an ancient great cultivator? Although the probability wasn't high, it was enough for quasi-sages to fight over it. What if they won the lottery? Wasn't that like ascending to the heavens in a single step? Furthermore, this pill could even increase the chances of a cultivator breaking through to quasi-sage by 20%. Even with Ning Fan's personality, he was extremely tempted by this pill. When Ning Fan recalled that the Dragon Horse clan had exactly 16 immortal emperors, he could not help but suspect that this matter was not a coincidence. Instead, it was deliberately arranged by a certain supreme being in the Realm River. Perhaps the existence of the Dragon Horse 16 emperors was originally a material used by some supreme existence in the Border River to refine pills. If that's the case, Ning Fan might have already offended this supreme existence by killing all of the Dragon Horse immortal emperors in one go. Forget it, if he offended her, then so be it. Was he ever afraid? He would first refine the 16 Hearts pill and eat it. Whether he offended him or not, he would still have to rely on his own strength. The problem was, how was he going to concoct the pill? The 16 Hearts pill was an emperor pill. There might not even be a pill refinement master at this level in the entire Eastern Heaven. Even if they had the materials to concoct the pill, no one had the confidence to concoct the pill. Fortunately, Ning Fan had imprisoned many Gold Core Realm 9th Revolution pill refinement masters in his incense flame world. If there are many Gold Core Realm pill refinement masters concocting the pill at the same time and with the help of a secret Tao of pill, it was not impossible for him to barely concoct the 16 Hearts pill. In the past, the old ancestor of the Silver Core Realm pill refinement sect dared to attempt to concoct the 10 Transformations ancestral pill. Facts had proven that it was not impossible to succeed in concocting a pill that was above one's cultivation level. However, firstly, it was extremely difficult and the success rate was low. Secondly, it would take a long time. Thirdly, the pills concocted by such trickery would not reach the perfect grade. It was already an extravagant hope for them to reach the excellent grade. Most of them would only reach the flawed grade. Ning Fan immediately felt a headache. There were two paths in front of him. One was to wait until his pill refinement mastery reached the Emperor pill grade or to find an Emperor pill refinement master to concoct the 16 Hearts pill. The other was to give up on the perfect grade and go for the next best option, which was to let the few Gold Core Realm pill refinement masters in the Incense Flame world try to concoct the 16 Hearts pill refinement master. After much consideration, Ning Fan finally decided to choose the second path. If he finds another Emperor pill refinement master to concoct the pill, there would be a problem. Putting aside whether or not Ning Fan could find a pill refinement master of that level, Ning Fan was only worried that the pill refinement master would covet the 16 Hearts pill. The preciousness of this pill was enough to attract the greed of countless experts in the four heavens. It was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Ning Fan did not want all the quasi-saints in the four heavens to hunt him down just to concoct this pill. If he were to concoct the pill by himself, there would be another problem. He did not know how many years it would take for him to break through to the Emperor pill refinement realm. Now that the Eastern Heaven was in chaos, the more he improved his cultivation level, the more power he would have to protect himself. If his cultivation level was insufficient and he died in the crazy revenge of the foreign races in the future, the so-called perfect grade 16 Hearts pill would become empty talk. Perfectionism was not a good thing in the cultivation world. It was just like the wild fruits by the roadside. They would never wait until the day they ripen before they are completely plucked. When a flower blooms, it should be plucked straight. Don't wait until there are no flowers and only the branches are plucked. In the Incense Flame realm, there were a total of 6 Gold Core Realm pill refinement masters. All of them were reputable figures in the Supreme Pill Sacred region. All of them were prideful people. However, in front of a peerless devil lord like Ning Fan, they did not dare to be arrogant. Their attitudes were quite humble and respectful. As soon as they found out that Ning Fan had called them over to concoct the 9 Revolutions Emperor pill, the 6 pill refinement masters were eager to try. After all, if they could concoct a 9 Revolutions Emperor pill, it would greatly improve their pill refinement techniques. As pill refinement masters, they were always willing to accept challenges. Besides, Ning Fan also promised them that as long as they could successfully concoct this pill, he would set them free and allow them to return to the Supreme Pill Sacred region when he visits it again in the future. As such, the 6 pill refinement masters were extremely focused on concocting the 16 Hearts pill. The only thing they were worried about was the difficulty of concocting the Emperor pill and the possibility of failure. At the same time, they were also afraid that Ning Fan would not have the patience to wait for too long. Don't be afraid. In order to concoct this pill, I will lend you the immemorial lightning cauldron and the flaming lightning fire. With a mid-grade innate lightning cauldron and a lightning fire that was close to the mid-grade innate lightning fire, it won't take too long to concoct this pill. The success rate can also be guaranteed to a certain extent. Even if you fail in the end, I won't punish you. However, I won't give you the benefits that I promised you. As soon as Ning Fan said that, the 6 pill refinement masters were overjoyed. With a mid-grade innate lightning cauldron and a fire that was close to the mid-grade innate lightning fire, they had at least 60 to 70% confidence that they could concoct the 16 Hearts pill within 10 years. 10 years was already the fastest they could go. Without such a high-grade cauldron and fire, they would need at least tens of thousands of years to concoct the 16 Hearts pill using only their own cauldron and fire. It's just 10 years. I can afford to wait. If that's the case, I'll wait for your good news. Don't worry, Master. Even if we have to risk our lives, we must concoct this pill. The 6 pill refinement masters secretly made up their minds. However, a success rate of 60 to 70% was not enough. In order to guarantee the success rate of the pill, they might have to do something that would destroy their own Tao of pill refinement to increase the success rate using a secret technique. Compared to freedom, their Tao of pill refinement could also be abandoned. No matter what, they must help their master concoct this pill in exchange for their freedom. Ning Fan naturally would not wait 10 years in the Lingyun Pass for nothing. The 10,000 spirit blood that immortal Emperor Slaughter obtained had further improved his divine physique. All of the innate dragon flames of the Dragon Horse Immortal Emperor were extracted by Ning Fan and integrated into the flame of flame and lightning. After doing all these, Ning Fan began to try to refine the 2 mid-grade innate magic treasures that he had just obtained. Currently, the water flooding bottle was already in a half-damaged state. He would not repair it. He had to wait until he returned to Eastern Heaven in the future and find Old Wu before he could repair it and use it again. The immemorial lightning cauldron was an auxiliary magic treasure. Without the water flooding bottle, Ning Fan's only offensive innate magic treasure was left with the sun, moon, and stars steel. In that case, refining the fate-severing sword and the sea-steadying divine needle was extremely significant as they could replenish Ning Fan's lost combat power. Among them, the fate-severing sword was easier to refine. This sword was a single-target offensive magic treasure. Its destructive power was slightly weaker than the sun, moon, and stars steel. However, this sword had an additional ability which allowed the wielder to block all deductions below the Sage Realm and cut off all the heavenly secrets. When Long Angua came out of the water with the fate-severing sword to ambush Ning Fan, the great Emperor of Machine-Making did not manage to deduce the whole story. This was all thanks to the fate-severing sword. With the effect of the fate-severing sword that could cut off the heavenly secrets, Ning Fan's safety would undoubtedly increase significantly when he dives into the bottom of the Realm River in the future. Even a quasi-sage realm cultivator would have a hard time detecting his presence. Not long after, Ning Fan refined the fate-severing sword. What gave Ning Fan a headache was the sea-steadying divine needle. This item was still standing in the Lingyun Pass. Not to mention how heavy it was, it actually could not be kept into the space of the world treasure. Ning Fan really did not know how to keep this treasure. He had been trying to tame it for a few days, but all his attempts ended in failure. With no other choice, Ning Fan stood in front of the sea-steadying divine needle and sighed continuously. Sometimes he would mutter to himself, "If only this needle was a little smaller and lighter. If only it could be kept into the space of the world treasure. That would be even better." Unexpectedly, as soon as he uttered those words, a faint ancient demon light shot out from the rusty cracks of the sea-steadying divine needle. It was incomparably dazzling and its brilliance reached the sky. "Master, please call me by my true name. I will make your wish come true." "Master, please call me by my true name." Ning Fan actually heard the voice of the sea-steadying divine needle through the ancient communication ability. "What is your true name?" Ning Fan's eyes lit up as if he had found the key to tame the sea-steadying divine needle. "My true name is Rui Scepter. I am not complete. My true body is divided into 9 parts. This body is the 8th body of the Rui Scepter. Only those who call my true name can complete the process of taming me." Rui Scepter? As soon as this name appeared in the depths of Ning Fan's mind, the rust on the surface of the sea-steadying divine needle began to peel off piece by piece, revealing the unchanging divine light underneath. For a moment, the entire Lingyun Pass shook violently. The water of the border river was even more turbulent. It was disturbed by the power of the Rui Scepter. As the rust peeled off, the Rui Scepter continued to shrink from its original length of several hundred zheng. Gradually, it became only as tall as the eyebrow scepter. Ning Fan knew that the moment he called out its true name, he had already completed the process of taming it as its master. After the stick shrunk in size, its weight had also decreased by a lot. It was about the weight of 3 ocean-defying swords. Ning Fan still could not lift the Rui scepter with one hand. However, if he wields it with both hands, he would be able to wield it with some difficulty. The weight of a single swing of the stick was enough to make a sixth tribulation immortal emperor cough out blood. If the power of the mid-grade innate magic treasure is taken into account, it would not be difficult for it to destroy the physical body of a sixth tribulation immortal emperor. Its power was much greater than the sun, moon, and stars' steel. Of course, with Ning Fan's current strength, if he exerts the full power of the Rui scepter, his strength would be exhausted after 2 or 3 swings and he would become so weak that his legs would turn to jelly. This stick was not something that he could wield freely at his current level. In terms of practicality, it was not as good as the sun, moon, and stars' steel. After it had acknowledged him as its master, he could now keep the Rui scepter into the space of the world treasure at will. Storing this item was no longer a problem for him. Moreover, this Rui scepter also had the ability of sea calming. Among the mid-grade innate magic treasures, there was no water element magic treasure that could compete with this treasure. Ning Fan did not immediately keep the Rui scepter into the space of the world treasure. It was because he suddenly realized that after the Rui scepter had acknowledged him as its master, some tiny light characters emerged on its surface. All of them were ancient characters. These characters were the ancient divine characters that were commonly used in the Purple Dough Immortal region. After Ning Fan finished reading them, his expression changed all of a sudden. In my 6th dream, I watched Pangu create the heavens. In my 7th dream, I watched the butterfly defy the heavens. In my 8th dream, I watched the petrified ape wreak havoc in the heavens. This ape abandoned my devil sense and went against my will of life and death, unwilling to return to its original position. I tried my best to break the 8th dream. In the end, I lost my devil sense and only obtained the 9 needles. Seeing the needles was like seeing my own face. It was a pity. The name of this needle in my dream was originally the Rui Scepter Golden Cudgel. However, because the word golden cudgel was inauspicious, I abandoned it in the Western Mountain and only left it with my will to subdue the 9 needles in the Immortal Sea and suppress the Immortal Sea Gate forever. Ning Fan could not help but be shocked. These characters actually emitted the unique chi of Immortal Sovereign Zido. This is obviously the handwriting of Immortal Sovereign Zido. Could it be that this treasure is something that Immortal Sovereign Zido once used? How could it have such a powerful background? Moreover, aren't there too many secrets hidden in these characters? Pangu create the heavens, the butterfly defy the heavens, and the petrified ape wreak havoc in the heavens. What do all of these mean? At the moment when Ning Fan subdued the sea-calming divine needle, the expression of the great divine priest in the 6th Water Divine Palace suddenly changed. That stubborn iron that no one could subdue has actually been subdued by someone. She immediately pinched her fingers to calculate how Ning Fan subdued the sea-calming divine needle. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was carrying the fate-severing sword. Thus, the great divine priest could not calculate the specific process at all. He was not a deity that could communicate with the ancient times. Thus, he could not hear the true name of the sea-calming divine needle. He was not the owner of the Rui scepter. Thus, he could not see the characters that Immortal Sovereign Zido left on the scepter. He only knew that there were a total of 9 sticks of this scepter since the ancient times. Since the beginning of the history of the Purple Dough Immortal region, none of them could be subdued by cultivators other than Immortal Sovereign Zido. Ning Fan was actually able to do something that countless cultivators of the true world could not. Thus, the great divine priest's fear towards Ning Fan had reached an unprecedented level. Chapter 1131. After a year, Ning Fan, who had finished healing his wounds, finally contacted Taiyuan Du personally and reported the details of the battle that day. At the same time, Ning Fan also received news from Taiyuan Ferry. Today, not only the 11th water route which he was in had been completely conquered, the 2nd, 5th, and 7th water routes had also been completely conquered. The 1st, 4th, 8th, 10th, and 12th waterways had also reached their final stages. It would take at least a few months, and at most a year or 2 at most to recover all of them. Only the 3rd, 6th, and 9th water paths, which were connected to the west, north, and south heaven domains, were in a stalemate with the foreign races. The battle over there was beginning to reach its climax. It was said that even some of the Deputy Alliance chiefs had been sent to the front lines of the 3rd, 6th, and 9th water paths. Ning Fan took the initiative to request to leave the 11th path and join the battle in the 13th, 6th, and 9th paths where the situation was more intense. Unfortunately, his request was rejected by Emperor Tsong. Although the battles in the 3rd, 6th, and 9th paths are intense, the enemy doesn't have many immortal emperors. As long as we spend more time, we'll be able to conquer them. Brother, don't forget that reclaiming the water pass is only the first step of our plan. The reason for the chaos of the foreign clans was that there was a problem with the seal of the Celestial Emperor at the bottom of the river. Once all the water forts are reclaimed, it will be time for me to take action. At that time, I will have no choice but to take the risk and head to the bottom of the river, to the heart of the outsiders, and complete the magnificent feat of repairing the Celestial Emperor's seal. This matter is extremely dangerous. I wonder what little brother has thought about it. Are you willing to participate in this operation? Naturally, he had to participate. Very quickly, Ning Fan gave Emperor Tsong an affirmative answer, making him and the others overjoyed. A man's name is like a tree's shadow. After confirming that Ning Fan was going to join them, everyone's confidence rose by a lot. He could only blame the fact that there were too many people in the Eastern Heaven that he cared about. For this reason alone, no matter how dangerous the operation to repair the immortal sovereign seal was, he would not reject it. He no longer needed to continue considering this matter. When he thought about how he would have to repair the immortal sovereign realm's seal in another 10 years or so, he was no longer in a hurry to go to other waterways to fight against the foreign races. Continuing to improve his strength and increase the success rate of this operation was the most important thing. A few days later, Ning Fan disguised himself as a fish and dived to the bottom of the realm river. This time, he didn't dive into the water with great fanfare. Instead, he moved stealthily, even deceiving the cultivators in the pass. Since Ning Fan had transformed into a Mount Tai fish to seize the sea-steadying divine needle and killed the dragon horse crown prince while ignoring the magnetic force of the realm river, all the members of the foreign races were shocked by his actions. They did not expect that Ning Fan, who was a cultivator of the Eastern Heaven, would have such capabilities. He could move freely at the bottom of the river and even disguise himself as a member of a foreign race, making it hard for others to recognize him. For a moment, all the major clans of the 11 paths acted as if they were facing a great enemy. They were afraid that Ning Fan would disguise himself and sneak into the bottom of the river to assassinate the experts of their clans. All the major aquatic clans were on high alert. As soon as Ning Fan entered the water, he noticed this. First of all, there were more outsiders patrolling the bottom of the river. Secondly, when Ning Fan disguised himself as a strange catfish who had returned to his ancestry and wanted to sneak into the strange catfish clan to steal the Een heavy wood, he was actually forbidden from entering the city by the experts of the clan. The reason was that he looked unfamiliar. During special times, all unfamiliar faces were not allowed to enter the clan grounds. Then, Ning Fan disguised himself as the Ice-Eye Fish, the Sea Emperor Carp, and the Fire Wing Carp. However, those clans were the same as the strange catfish clan. They did not give him a chance to sneak in at all. Obviously, the actual situation of entering the water this time was different from the last time. He could not use the same trick as the last time. Disguising himself as a member of a foreign clan, returning to his ancestry, committing a crime on purpose, controlling the enemy with an illusion technique and locking him in the underground mineral vein. These were the tricks that Ning Fan used last time. Ghost Face went invisible, the fate-severing sword isolated the heavenly secrets and directly sneaked into the enemy's territory. Then he used an illusion technique to control the clan leader and found a random excuse to open the underground mineral vein to sneak in. These were the tricks that Ning Fan used this time. One had to admit that the fate-severing sword was very useful. When used together with Ghost Face, none of the sensing formations of the various clans could detect Ning Fan's intrusion. Because he was moving in stealth this time, Ning Fan did not need to specifically choose the clans of fish to invade. As long as it was a force below the immortal emperor realm, he would visit all of them. Ning Fan did not steal from the clans of the immortal emperor realm. It was because he discovered that the heavy wood mineral vein of the immortal emperor realm clans was actually vastly different from the mineral vein of the immortal venerables and immortal kings clans. For some reason, the celestial emperor's sunken wood mine was connected to the celestial emperor's seal in the East Jie River. If Ning Fan touches the heavy wood of an immortal emperor force, it would probably cause damage to the immortal sovereign's seal. Ning Fan had already made up his mind to participate in the operation to repair the immortal sovereign's seal. How would he be willing to take the initiative to destroy the seal? The collapse of a 1,000-mile dike can be caused by an anthole. If the restoration of the immortal sovereign's seal failed because of his greed for the 800 million heavy wood from the immortal emperor clan, he would not be able to redeem himself even if he died 10,000 times. After weighing the pros and cons, he gave up on the idea of stealing the immortal emperor's gloomy heavy wood and focused on stealing the immortal lords and immortal kings clans. One day later, Ning Fan retraced his steps and snuck back to the strange catfish clan. 3 days later, he secretly left the strange catfish clan, bringing with him more than 1 million gene of heavy wood and hundreds of pure wood dragons that were condensed from the wood chi of the underground world. On the 4th day, Ning Fan visited the Isai clan and obtained 94 gene of 800 million heavy wood. On the 7th day, Ning Fan visited the Sea Emperor Carp clan. On the 11th day, Ning Fan visited the Sea Emperor Carp clan. Unlike the last time, because the immemorial lightning cauldron and the flame lightning fire that were of the highest grade were occupied by the 16-heart pill, Ning Fan was not in a hurry to start concocting the pill. Instead, he kept the items in his hands first. In the blink of an eye, 10 months had passed. Ning Fan had robbed more than 100 immortal venerables and immortal kings' forces in the entire 11 water paths. Apart from those immortal emperors' clans, the remaining 800 million heavy wood had all gone into Ning Fan's hands. When mortals described their wealth, they would often say that they were as wealthy as a country. Ning Fan felt that he could not say that he was as wealthy as a country. It would be more accurate to say that he was as wealthy as the eastern heavens or even the 4 heavens. After robbing the 11 water paths, he obtained a total of 240,000 gene of 800 million heavy wood. If he uses all of them to concoct the immeasurable pill, it might be enough for all the thought-breaking old monsters in the 4 heavens to break through to the immortal venerable realm. After all, a mere 500 immeasurable pills would be enough for an ordinary peak thought-breaking realm expert to break through to the immortal venerable realm. Ning Fan, on the other hand, was different. His divine spirit-crippled body was too domineering. In the past, he had used tens of thousands of immeasurable pills to allow his cultivation base to break through to the immortal venerable realm. Moreover, the effect of the immeasurable pill would be reduced by half every time the cultivator advanced to the next level of the eternal ancient realm. It was somewhat similar to the cultivation of the first step of the void fragmentation realm. The consumption of immeasurable pills would be greatly increased. In that case, even though Ning Fan had a lot of 800 million heavy wood in his hands, he was not sure to what level his cultivation base would rise to after devouring all of them. Greed was the nature of human beings. Ning Fan was no exception either. Since these 800 million heavy wood were the resources of his enemies, he did not mind being greedy for a little more. How could it be enough to only rob the 11 water paths? Coincidentally, during the 10 months that Ning Fan was robbing, the 12 water paths which were closer to the 11th water path had been completely recovered. Ning Fan made up his mind and directly swam to the 12th water path and began to steal the heavy wood of the 12 water paths. The amount of heavy wood in the 12th water path was not as much as the 11th water path. In less than 9 months, Ning Fan had already robbed all the immortal venerables and immortal king realm forces of the 12 water paths without anyone noticing. Coincidentally, during these 9 months, the 10th water path had also been completely recovered. The first water path had also been completely recovered. Thus, Ning Fan went to the 10th water path without hesitation and began to steal as much as he could. By the time he finished robbing the 10th water path, other than the 3rd, 6th and 9th water paths, he had already completely recovered all the other water paths. Logically speaking, after Ning Fan finished robbing the 10th water path, he should go to the 9th water path along the way. However, the situation in the 9th water path was a little special. With his boundless rain sense, Ning Fan sensed the presence of quasi-saints in this water path. Moreover, it was not just one but two. Considering that the 9th water path was connected to the southern heaven, its geographical location was especially important. It was not strange for there to be two quasi-saints of foreign races to guard it. Since there were quasi-saints guarding this place, Ning Fan did not act recklessly in the 9th water path. He realized that the mineral veins in the 9th water path were being sensed by the two quasi-saints. As long as someone opens the underground mineral veins without permission, the two quasi-saints would certainly approach them and interrogate them. As such, Ning Fan had no choice but to let go of the 9th water path. He crossed the region and went to the 8th water path to steal as much as he could. After he finished robbing the 8th water path, he went to the 7th water path. When he reached the 6th water path, he realized that there were 6 to 7 quasi-saints there. He became even more cautious. The 6th water path was connected to the northern heaven. The number of quasi-saints in the water path leading to the northern heaven far exceeded the number of quasi-saints in the water path leading to the southern heaven. Rumor had it that the situation in the northern heaven was the most dangerous. Now, it seemed like the rumor was not false. Ning Fan bypassed the 6th water path and stole all the quasi-saints in the 5th and 4th water paths. Then he bypassed the 3rd water path, which was guarded by a quasi-saint, and went to the 2nd and 1st water paths. When Ning Fan returned to the Ling Yun Pass after robbing the entire eastern border river, it had already been 11 years since he dived into the border river for the second time. The total amount of 800 million yen heavy wood in the profound yen world had reached a terrifying 220,000 yen. This amount of yen heavy wood was enough to make all the quasi-saints in the 4 heavens move out to rob him. Ning Fan knew the severity of the matter. He would never let anyone know about this matter. He was not a saint. He would not share these 800 million yen heavy wood with the cultivators of the eastern heaven. It was because he knew that no matter how righteous the eastern heaven's cultivators were, they still had their own selfish motives. As the ancients said, friends can go through thick and thin together, but they cannot share riches and honor together. As the saying goes, great kindness is also great enmity. The great war was imminent. If he shares a large amount of 800 million yen heavy wood with the other cultivators of the eastern heaven, what he would gain would not be gratitude but the greed and schemes of countless people. The alliance of the border river, which was originally united against the outsiders, might even fall apart because of the temptation of a large amount of 800 million yen heavy wood. Even if it was the 2 divine void emperors or old devil, by which one of them did not need immeasurable pills in their cultivation process. To those existences, a small amount of immeasurable pills might not be enough to attract their attention. However, a large amount of immeasurable pills would be enough to pave their path to the quasi-saint realm. Who knows what they would do if they find out about this matter? 11 years have passed. Those few incense flame slaves seem to have almost finished concocting my 16-heart pill. In that case, I can free up the immemorial lightning cauldron and the flame lightning fire to concoct the immeasurable pill. There's one more thing which is very troublesome. Even though I have a large amount of 800 million yen heavy wood with me, it's not enough to concoct the immeasurable pill. I still need other medicinal ingredients. When he thought of this, Ning Fan suddenly felt a headache. This is really a happy worry. Where am I going to get the same amount of other medicinal ingredients? The eastern heavens certainly can't plunder so many medicinal ingredients. It probably won't even be enough to make up for the small change. As expected, I can only rely on the ancient country trading formation. Ning Fan got in touch with the old man from the heaven-piercing sect through the ancient country trading formation. Unfortunately, the other party could not fulfill his request this time. It's difficult. It's too difficult. The amount of medicinal ingredients that fellow Taoist needs is too huge. Each of them actually needs a few 100,000 yen. The warehouse of my sect doesn't have so much stock at all. It's hard to even make up for the small change. You should know that all the stock had been bought by a large sect from a certain true world in one go. Besides, even if there are enough medicinal ingredients, the price of such a large amount of medicinal ingredients will not be lower than 10,000 gold. To be honest with fellow Taoist, my position in the sect isn't considered high. My authority is rather limited. I've already given up my face to help fellow Taoist pay a few hundred gold on credit. If it's a transaction of more than 10,000 gold, forgive me for not being able to. The old man's tone was very honest. He really did not have the ability to help Ning Fan write an IOU of 10,000 gold. After hearing his words, Ning Fan also felt deeply helpless. He sighed and did not force the old man to do such a thing which was obviously beyond his ability. Speaking of which, this matter was really too ridiculous. When other people concoct the immeasurable pill, they would lack the hardest to find 800 million in heavy wood. Ning Fan, on the other hand, did not lack in heavy wood. Instead, he lacked various kinds of cheap materials. The old man was originally sighing. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and said happily, "By the way, I have a piece of information here. Perhaps it can help fellow Taoist." Fellow Taoist, do you still remember the second method of using our sect's trading formation? Ning Fan pondered for a moment and answered, "Of course I do." On one hand, the ancient country trading formation allows one to directly purchase goods from the heaven-reaching sect. On the other hand, it also allows one to conduct private transactions with the cultivators from the outside world. However, I remember that fellow Taoist once mentioned that if cultivators conduct private transactions, they will face a huge risk because they are avoiding the power of the ancient country scale. About 1/3 of the transactions will fail due to the turbulence of time and space, resulting in a loss of both goods and money. The old man said, "That's right. It is indeed very risky for cultivators to conduct private transactions. However, it seems like this is the only way to help fellow Taoist gather the materials for concocting the pill. From what I see, fellow Taoist is buying these medicinal materials to concoct the immeasurable pill, am I right? Moreover, the amount of each of the medicinal materials that fellow Taoist is collecting is extremely huge. However, you are not collecting the most precious 800 million in heavy wood. I reckon that fellow Taoist must have a large amount of 800 million in heavy wood in your hands, am I right?" Ning Fan said, "That's right." The old man said, "Forgive me for asking, but how much 800 million in heavy wood does fellow Taoist have? If it is more than 100,000 jin, I have a business that will definitely make a profit. I am willing to provide it to fellow Taoist. It can solve your urgent problem." Ning Fan said, "Oh? I would like to hear the details." The old man said, "It's like this. In a certain high-grade illusionary world, a senior incipient saint posted a request for goods to our sect. She needs at least 100,000 jin of 800 million in heavy wood." After hearing what the old man said, Ning Fan smiled bitterly and said, "I don't plan to sell the 800 million in heavy wood in my hands." He planned to keep them for himself to improve his cultivation base. Why would he sell them for money? Is he stupid? The old man said, "That's not true. It's not an ordinary sale. Since the senior incipient saint is willing to barter with me, she seems to have a large amount of finished immeasurable pills in her hands. It turns out that she is going to use them to exchange for the 800 million in heavy wood." Ning Fan's eyes lit up. "Barter with me? If I directly exchange the in heavy wood for her finished immeasurable pills, not only can I save myself the trouble of collecting other medicinal materials, but I can also save a lot of time in pill concoction. This is a good deal. However, I don't know what is the ratio of the other party. With Ning Fan's pill concoction technique, 1 gene of 800 million in heavy wood could probably produce 2 immeasurable pills. Of course, if he accumulates experience through a large amount of concoction, there should be room for his success rate to increase and he could produce 3 pills for 1 gene of wood. Considering the risks of the transaction, the cost of the other medicinal materials and the time needed for pill concoction, as long as the price offered by the other party reaches 2 pills for 1 gene of wood, he would be willing to carry out this transaction. If the ratio is lower than this, he would have to consider it carefully, the old man said. Don't worry, fellow Taoist. Since I said that this transaction will definitely be profitable, the ratio will certainly satisfy fellow Taoist. The other party is willing to exchange 4 immeasurable pills for 1 gene of Een heavy wood. For every 50,000 gene of Een heavy wood that fellow Taoist offers, that senior is willing to increase the ratio by 1 more pill. In other words, if Ning Fan is carrying out a transaction of 220,000 gene of Een heavy wood, the ratio would be 1 to 5. This ratio was much higher than what he expected in his heart. Even if he loses a third of the immeasurable pills that he would get in the end, the ratio would still be more than 1 to 3. It was just too worth it. The old man continued, that senior has another purpose for purchasing 800 million pieces of Een heavy wood. That's why he's willing to use the immeasurable pills that he doesn't need for this transaction. If fellow Taoist is interested in this transaction, I can tell you the contact method of that senior and help fellow Taoist contact that senior. She will then activate the ancient country's transaction formation and wait for fellow Taoist to contact her. Thank you again. A few days later, Ning Fan contacted the old man from the heaven-reaching cult through the ancient country's transaction formation. He learned that the senior had already taken some time out and was currently waiting for Ning Fan to contact him through the formation. Hence, Ning Fan switched to another ancient country's transaction formation that specialized in private transactions. He entered the address of that senior in the ancient country's address into the formation. The myriad worlds in the heavens were just an imaginary number. The number of worlds in this world was originally endless, and it was hard to see the edge of it. If Ning Fan did not know the other party's address, the difficulty of completing the structure of the ancient country's transaction formation would be no less than searching for a speck of dust in the entire eastern heaven. Knowing the address was much easier. Ning Fan was unwilling to reveal his address in the illusionary world. However, the other party did not seem to have such concerns. The address that was marked was Little Mountain World. Behind it was a long string of coordinates. According to the old man from the heaven-reaching cult, the Little Mountain World seemed to be a high-grade illusionary world that could nurture saints. Judging from this, the illusionary world that Ning Fan was staying in was definitely not a high-grade illusionary world. After all, it could not give birth to a saint. Ding ding ding, it was the sound of the ancient country's transaction formation connecting the two parties. Before Ning Fan could say anything, a gentle and pleasant female voice came from the other end of the ancient country's transaction formation. Hello. The other party greeted him politely. A woman? Ning Fan was stunned. He only knew that the person who wanted to trade with him was a senior at the incipient saint realm. He did not know that it was a woman. Is there anything wrong with a woman? The woman in front of him seemed to be a little displeased. However, even if she was displeased, she still behaved politely. She was neither anxious nor annoyed. It seemed like she was not really angry. Ning Fan knew that he was being rude and apologized. I'm sorry. He did not explain much. After all, it was just a transaction of fate. After the transaction, they would probably part ways. Chapter 1132. Ning Fan did not have the intention to have a deep conversation with that female saint. The other party also did not seem to want to talk to him in case they were involved in some karma. Ning Fan's understanding of her was limited to the name of her plane and the VIP code name she used in the heaven-reaching sect. Ning Fan was a bronze-level VIP of the heaven-reaching sect. The code name he used during the transaction was Fox of Slaughter. As for the other party, she was a silver-level VIP with the code name Miss Ling. When she found out that Ning Fan actually had 220,000 gene of 800 million Een heavy wood, Miss Ling was obviously a little excited. Fellow Taoist, can you transfer all of your Een heavy wood to me? I'm willing to give you 55 low-grade immeasurable pills for each gene of wood. 55 pills? Ning Fan was surprised. Initially, he thought that it would be considered a success if the transaction could reach a ratio of 1 to 50. He did not expect that the other party would directly offer such a high ratio. What? Does fellow Taoist think that this ratio is too low? I don't know about the situation in your plane. However, in my plane, this price is already a few times higher than the market price. If it wasn't because I urgently need this item, it would be impossible for me to offer such a high price. Ning Fan could vaguely feel that Miss Ling, who was in another plane, seemed to be frowning at this moment. She explained with a bitter smile. No, this ratio is not low. It is exactly because the ratio is a little high that I am surprised. Let's trade at this ratio. Send me some wood first. I want to test the quality of the wood. The other party said again. I see. Ning Fan nodded and used the ancient country trading formation to send 10 sets of wood consecutively to the little mountain world. Each set was 1 gene. Fellow Taoist is really interesting. I only need to test 1 set of wood, but you actually sent me 9 sets of wood. I suppose this is your first time making a private transaction with someone, right? Are you testing the probability of the goods being devoured by the spatial turbulence? Miss Ling smiled. She was a saint who was as shrewd as the ocean. She could naturally tell what Ning Fan was thinking. Ning Fan did not deny it. He smiled and admitted Miss Ling's guess. Inwardly, he was a little moved by the result of the test. 9 sets? Out of 10 sets of wood, 9 of them were actually successfully transferred. The success rate is really high. It actually reached 90%. According to the heaven-reaching sect, if ordinary people do not use the ancient country scale to trade goods, 1/3 of the goods would usually be devoured by the spatial turbulence. Ning Fan did not know whether his teleportation success rate was close to 90% or it was due to luck. It would be fine if it was just a coincidence. However, if the success rate of a private transaction was really affected by luck, then he had a bold idea and wanted to try it out. Most of the 10,000 ancient immortal venerables only had 1 or 2 colors of immortal luck. Ning Fan, on the other hand, already had 5 colors of immortal luck. Among those who were at the same level as him, he was definitely an existence with heaven-defying luck. Of course, because he had killed quite a number of immortal emperors recently, his luck was actually even more heaven-defying. Oh, the quality of the goods was quite good. Since that was the case, the transaction could begin. 220,000 kilograms of goods is a little too much. How about this? We'll trade in batches. For every 500 kilograms of wood that fellow Taoist sends me, I'll send you 55,000 immeasurable pills. As for the issue of receiving goods, he would follow the customs of the ancient countries. If the goods fellow Taoist sends out are swallowed by the spatial turbulence, you will have to bear the losses yourself and restock the goods. In other words, the amount of wood that fellow Taoist can send to me in the end will definitely not be more than 220,000 kilograms. I will only pay for the goods in this area. Similarly, if fellow Taoist does not receive the pills that I send out, I will have to restock them. Ning Fan had already asked the sky-reaching sect about these customs. He did not have any objections to these terms. Moreover, if the ancient country's transaction formation was successful, it would emit a formation light to alert the formation master. With this advantage, he did not have to worry about the other party hiding the goods after receiving them. However, before he truly transacted with Miss Ling, Ning Fan still had some things he wanted to confirm. Thus, he was not in a hurry to start the transaction. Instead, he took out some useless items from his storage pouch and sent them to Miss Ling through the ancient country's transaction formation. The first step was medicinal pills. 10 bottles were sent out and 8 bottles arrived at Little Mountain Jia. 10 postnatal talismans were sent out and 9 arrived at Little Mountain Jia. 10 million-year-old spirit herbs were sent out and 8 arrived at Little Mountain Jia. 10 stones that were picked up from the ground at Lingyun Pass were sent out and 9 arrived at Little Mountain Jia. 10 grasses that were randomly plucked from the ground were sent out and 8 arrived at Little Mountain Jia. 10 drops of river water from the Jia River, 10 tattered storage pouches. When Miss Ling received Ning Fan's junk one after another, she could not help but feel speechless even with her cultivation and self-restraint of the 6 epochs reincarnation realm. Is this fellow Taoist slaughter fox playing with the ancient country's transaction formation, or is this fellow Taoist slaughter fox still testing the probability of the appearance of the spatial turbulence? However, it would cost a large amount of heavenly Tao gold and silver every time he sent the goods to other planes without going through the ancient country scale. Moreover, he would need to pay some commission to the sky-reaching sect for the goods to be directly received by the formation. It could be said that even if Ning Fan's goods were junk, he would still need to spend a lot of money for each teleportation. Miss Ling did not know how long Ning Fan was going to carry out the test. She had great self-restraint and would not act like a bad person. She interrupted Ning Fan's test and patiently waited for the test to end so that he could start the transaction. In the end, Ning Fan spent nearly 100 gold coins to send hundreds of junk to Little Mountain Jie and sorted out some data. A large amount of statistical data showed that his success rate of sending goods was indeed higher than ordinary people. It could actually stabilize at around 80%. Among people with the same luck, his cultivation base was the lowest. However, among people with the same cultivation base, his luck far surpassed them. This point was indeed helpful for him to carry out private transactions in ancient countries. When others carry out private transactions in different worlds, the failure rate was as high as 1/3. However, his failure rate was only around 20%. If his luck increases a little more compared to the original foundation, the failure rate should be able to be lowered. As he thought of this, Ning Fan smiled faintly and made up his mind. Suddenly, he released the seal on his body and completely released the luck that he had been suppressing for a long time. In the past, during the Emperor conferring ceremony, Ning Fan had integrated the heaven-defying ability, Big Dipper Reversal, into the cross-shaped halo. From then on, even if he did not actively use Big Dipper Reversal, he could still devour the enemy's luck when he kills someone with the cross-shaped halo. In the Dark Race, Ning Fan had killed an immortal emperor of the Dark Race. On the Realm River, he had killed a large number of immortal emperors of the foreign races. Any one of those immortal emperors had the peerless luck of a 7th-colored immortal emperor. Every time Ning Fan killed an immortal emperor, the cross-shaped halo would automatically devour the opponent's luck and return the huge amount of luck to Ning Fan's body. From the 5-colored immortal emperor to the 6-colored immortal emperor, he would need to devour around 10 6-colored cultivators. From the 6-colored immortal emperor to the 7-colored immortal emperor, he would need to devour around 10 7-colored cultivators. The number of immortal emperors that Ning Fan had killed had already exceeded this number. At this moment, he released all the luck that he had accumulated for a long time and integrated it into his umbrella of luck. The level of his luck immediately began to skyrocket. After 100 breaths, the level of Ning Fan's luck broke through from the 5-colored immortal emperor to the 6-colored immortal emperor. Another 100 breaths later, Ning Fan's umbrella of luck had turned into the 7-colored immortal emperor. There was even a trace of the 8th color. Basically, only immortal emperors were qualified to have 7-colored luck. Only the quasi-sages in the 4 heavens could cultivate a sliver of the 8th color after the 7-colored true qi. To put it bluntly, the current level of Ning Fan's luck had already surpassed the 7th-generation Shadi and was on par with the quasi-saints of the 4 heavens. Such a level of luck had actually appeared on an immortal venerate of 10,000 ancient times. It was imaginable how much luck this immortal venerate had. After his luck broke through, Ning Fan spent tens of gold coins to conduct the second round of teleportation test. The result shocked him. In total, he had teleported more than 200 pieces of junk. Only 3 of them were devoured while the rest of them successfully reached the Little Mountain world. His teleportation success rate was actually close to 99%. It was a success rate that ordinary people could not imagine. Ning Fan nodded his head in satisfaction. Now, he could conduct the transaction with Miss Ling. Eventually, out of the 220,000 gene of wood that Ning Fan sent out, only 3,000 gene of them failed. The rest of them all reached the Little Mountain world. Even though Miss Ling had the experience of the 6 epochs reincarnation, she was still shocked by Ning Fan's heaven-defying luck. A success rate that was close to 99%. How enviable! After receiving the goods, he needed to pay. According to the actual number of goods he received, Miss Ling needed to pay Ning Fan a total of 1.2 million low-grade immeasurable pills. Her luck was just above average among the incipient Saint Realm experts of the same level as her. Thus, the success rate of the transaction in the ancient country could only be stabilized at around 75%. Compared to all the other transaction participants, it was already considered a good success rate. However, if it is compared to Ning Fan's success rate, it would be somewhat unsightly. After more than 400,000 pills were devoured by the spatial turbulence, Miss Ling finally finished giving out the pills and ended the transaction with Ning Fan. With her personality, she would never talk nonsense with a stranger. However, this time, before the transaction ended, she asked Ning Fan a question out of curiosity. "You aren't an incipient Saint Realm expert, are you?" As soon as the words left her mouth, Miss Ling felt that it was inappropriate and she felt a little embarrassed. Inquiring about the other party's cultivation base and background was the biggest taboo in the transaction of an ancient country. The reason why the transaction of an ancient country could be trusted by the myriad of worlds was because of its confidentiality and reliability. "I'm sorry. I misspoke." Just as Miss Ling was about to apologize to Ning Fan, she heard a hearty laughter coming from the other side. It was a very young laughter. It did not seem to have the vicissitudes of life left behind by the death of Samsara. As expected, this fox of slaughter is not a saint, right? That's right. I'm not a saint. If it's not a transaction of an ancient country but a face-to-face exchange, I'm afraid I would have to call Miss Ling Sr. However, it's a pity that the world plane I'm in is too far away from the little mountain world. I'm afraid I won't have the chance to meet you face-to-face in this lifetime and call you Senior. He actually answered this question seriously. Miss Ling was stunned. Then she pursed her lips and chuckled. She said that they would meet again if fate wills it. Then, she turned off the ancient country's transaction formation and ended the communication with Ning Fan. She did not look down on Ning Fan just because he was not a saint. She just admired Ning Fan a lot. Even though he was not a saint, he could still get his hands on such a large amount of 800 million in heavy wood. Besides, his luck was also unparalleled among those at the same level as him. Even if he was not a saint now, there was a high chance that he would advance to the third step in the future. However, the myriad of worlds in the heavens were so vast. Even a saint might not be able to meet each other. The two of them probably would not meet each other again. Thus, Miss Ling did not keep this transaction in her mind. In the profound In world, Ning Fan's eyes were filled with joy. He looked at the immeasurable pills that were piled up like a mountain in front of him. 500 immeasurable pills were enough to make an ancient immortal venerable. He had 1,200,000 immeasurable pills with him. If he only creates immortal venerables in the eastern heaven, it would be enough for him to create more than 2,000 new immortal venerables. With such a large amount of pills, even if the degenerate divine spirit body devours most of the medicinal power of the pills, it would still be enough for his cultivation base to skyrocket. As for how strong his cultivation base would be, it would still depend on the pills he consumes in the future. Due to Ning Fan's amazing luck, the result of the transaction this time could be said to be perfect. Not long after the transaction ended, Ning Fan received another piece of good news. He had successfully concocted the 16-heart pill. When Ning Fan entered the incense flame realm, what he saw were 6 pill refinement masters who no longer looked like human beings. They offered the 16-heart pill to Ning Fan as if they were presenting a treasure. In order to ensure the success rate of concocting the 16-heart pill, the 6 of them did not hesitate to destroy their own Tao of pill and fuse their medicine souls into the pills. The price they paid could not be said to be small. Among them, 4 of them had destroyed their own medicine souls and their cultivation base had fallen to the 9th revolution of the gold grade forever. As for the other 2, their medicine souls were also greatly damaged. The foundation of their medicine souls was severely injured and they could no longer make any progress in their medicine souls for the rest of their lives. These 6 people were the disciples of the immortal emperors of the Supreme Pill Sacred Region. They used to be Ning Fan's enemies. Ning Fan would never sympathize with his enemies. However, he had always kept his promises. Since these 6 people had helped him concoct the 16-heart pill, he would return them their freedom. When he goes to the Supreme Pill Sacred Region again in the future, he would naturally let these 6 people go. After getting Ningfan's promise, the 6 of them were overjoyed. They felt that their efforts in the past 10+ years were not in vain. Thus, they naturally thanked Ningfan profusely. Ningfan kept the immemorial lightning cauldron and the flame lightning fire. Then, he returned to the profound Yin world to prepare for his future cultivation. With the endurance of his crippled divine spirit body, Ningfan could use the most domineering method to forcefully refine the heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures when he refines them. It would take him very little time. Other people might need tens of thousands of years to refine these pills, but he was confident that he could complete it within a few decades. The only thing he needed to consider was how to distribute the limitless pills and the 16-heart pill. The cultivation base of the 16-heart pill did not increase a fixed amount of magic power. The effects of consuming the pill would be different depending on the cultivation realm of the cultivator. There were 2 ways to consume the 16-heart pill. The first way was for the ancient devil cultivator who had the lowest cultivation base to consume the pill, allowing his cultivation base to directly rise to the 4th heavenly layer of ancestral reversion. The second way was for the divine, demon or devil cultivator to consume the pill after breaking through to the 4th tribulation immortal king realm and continue to break through to the 5th tribulation immortal king realm. Ningfan originally planned to weigh the pros and cons of the 2 methods carefully. However, when he discovered a certain matter, he rejected both plans. He realized that Jie Shui's cultivation base, which he could not find a way to improve, was actually responding to the 16-heart pill. This pill seemed to be able to improve Jie Shui's cultivation base. The cultivation bases of the ancient gods, ancient demons and ancient devils can all be improved through the limitless pill. Jie Shui's cultivation base is the only one that I can't find a way to improve. In the past, Jie Shui was my strength while the cultivation bases of the gods, demons and devils were my weakness. Today, the cultivation bases of the 4 elements have achieved a balance. However, this balance cannot last forever. If Jie Shui's cultivation base remains stagnant, it will become the weakness of my cultivation base in the future. It wasn't easy for me to find an item that can improve Jie Shui's cultivation base. If I use it to improve the cultivation bases of the gods, demons and devils, it will be too wasteful. However, there is one thing that I am very concerned about. Why is this 16-heart pill the only one among all the heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures that can improve Jie Shui's cultivation base? If I can understand the key to this, I might be able to find a way to continue cultivating Jie Shui's cultivation base. For a moment, Ningfan fell into deep thought. 10 years had passed in the blink of an eye. To ordinary ancient cultivators, 10 years was a very short period of time. Even 100,000 years would not be enough to improve their cultivation base by much unless they experienced a great opportunity. Ningfan, however, was different. In these 10 years, he had refined all the medicinal power of the 16-heart pill and his cultivation base had improved tremendously. A tribulation spirit of a royal family was comparable to a sage. A 3-star true blood realm was comparable to an ancient immortal venerable. 10 years ago, Ningfan's Jie Shui's cultivation base was at the 3-star true blood realm. 10 years later, his Jie Shui's cultivation base had been breaking through continuously and finally reached the 4-star true blood realm. A 4-star true blood grand firmament tribulation spirit was roughly equivalent to an existence that was above average among 4th tribulation immortal kings. It could be said that from the moment Ningfan broke through to the 4-star true blood realm, he could no longer be considered as an ancient immortal venerable. Instead, he had truly entered the immortal king realm. Even though the density of his magic power in the past had already surpassed many 4th tribulation immortal kings, he could only be considered as possessing the true immortal king realm at this moment. Is this the power of a 4-star true blood realm? Feeling the tribulation sense that kept gushing out of his body, Ningfan was extremely satisfied. After stabilizing himself for a while, he threw himself into the 2nd round of cultivation. He began to consume the measureless pill. First was the ancient devil's cultivation. After consuming more than 20,000 infinity pills, the ancient devil's cultivation naturally broke through to the 1st ancestral awakening realm. With 500 tribulation energy, one could become a newly advanced immortal venerable. 1,000 tribulation magic power could make one a first tribulation immortal venerable. Only with 2,000 tribulation magic power could one break through to the second tribulation immortal venerable realm. Every time the primordial realm advanced a level, it required double the amount of immeasurable pills to increase the same amount of magic power as before. As such, Ning Fan consumed another 80,000 immeasurable pills before his ancient devil cultivation base broke through to the second heavenly layer of ancestral returning realm. After consuming another 160,000 elixirs, the ancient gods and ancient demons broke through to the second eternal tribulation. After that, Ning Fan began to use all his strength to break through the bottleneck of the immortal king realm. To him, he would need about 320,000 immeasurable pills to break through to the third tribulation realm. Logically speaking, he only had 940,000 immeasurable pills left. It might be enough for 2 of his cultivation bases to break through to the third tribulation realm, but it would be a little difficult for him to break through to the third tribulation realm at the same time. However, due to an unexpected gain, the number of immeasurable pills that Ning Fan needed to break through to the third tribulation realm was greatly reduced. As a result, he actually managed to break through to the third tribulation realm at the same time. At this point, the cultivation bases of the divine, demon, and devil tribulations realms had all advanced to the immortal king realm. The divine, demon, and devil tribulations realms each had the magic power of 3,000 tribulations. When added together, it would be 9,000 tribulations. In terms of the density of his magic power, Ning Fan could already be compared to a 9-tribulation immortal emperor with just his divine, demon, and devil tribulations realms. Taking the tribulation blood's cultivation base into consideration, the total amount of his magic power was about 13,500 tribulations. What kind of concept was this level of magic power? One should know that the threshold of a quasi-saint realm's magic power was just 10,000 tribulations. The density of Ning Fan's magic power was already comparable to some first-level quasi-saints. Ning Fan's cultivation of 4 elements at the same time finally began to shine. Of course, at the level of a quasi-saint, the density of one's magic power was no longer the most important standard to measure one's strength. Abilities, magic treasures, the position of a quasi-saint, and a series of other factors were the standard to measure whether a quasi-saint was strong or not. Ning Fan's current magic power was enough to ensure that he would have an absolute advantage when facing 9 tribulation immortal emperors and half-step quasi-saints during the age of Dharma decline. However, if his opponent is a first-level quasi-saint, Ning Fan would still be no match for him. If he fights them one-on-one, he would probably lose 9 out of 10 battles. Even if he did not lose, he would at most end up in a draw. However, this was already enough to make Ning Fan happy. At least the current him already possessed the strength to threaten a quasi-saint. It could be said that he had been reborn. There were 2 other pieces of good news that made Ning Fan happy. Firstly, the problem of his crippled divine spirit body was officially solved. Secondly, his cultivation of the yin-yang Tao of wood had made great progress. Previously, because of the tyrannical nature of his crippled divine spirit body, a large amount of medicinal power would be forcibly taken away from him when he consumed the immeasurable pills to complete a certain evolution of his crippled divine spirit body. Under the nourishment of 1,200,000 immeasurable pills, the evolution of his crippled divine spirit body was finally completed. In the future, it would no longer affect Ning Fan's absorption of medicinal power. Due to the sudden change at the end of his cultivation, Ning Fan, who could only advance 2 types of cultivation bases to the immortal king realm, instantly had enough pills. In the end, his 3rd type of cultivation base also advanced to the immortal king realm. The evolution of his crippled divine spirit body did not make Ning Fan directly evolve into a postnatal divine spirit. Instead, while greatly increasing the strength of his spirit body, it gathered the divine power in his body and formed his unique divine lattice. If Ning Fan wants to become a postnatal divine spirit, he would need to find a way to continuously strengthen his divine lattice. What is a divine lattice? If one must put it in a nutshell, a divine lattice is just like the sovereign immortal emperor's divine seat, No, this analogy is not accurate. Because in Ning Fan's point of view, all living beings in this world are actually imitating the cultivation of ancient divine spirits. First, there were divine spirits. Then there were immortal spirits. After that, there were cultivators in the myriad of worlds in the heavens. Immortal spirits imitated divine spirits and nurtured their immortal lattice. As for their descendants, they imitated their immortal lattice and cultivated to the sovereign immortal realm. Ning Fan did not know about this at first. However, at the moment he condensed his divine lattice, many memories of divine spirits related to the divine lattice appeared in his mind. They were the blessings of the divine ancestors that every divine spirit who condensed their divine lattice would receive. Ning Fan had obtained a preliminary divine lattice. Currently, his divine lattice was completely blank. He needed to fill it with something in order to make it improve continuously. In that case, he must mention the cultivation of the wood yin-yang technique. To put it bluntly, the cultivation of the 27 yin-yang technique was to cultivate to the sovereign immortal realm step by step. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos did that, but Ning Fan did not. The biggest difference between him and Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was that he was a divine spirit and he possessed the most orthodox cultivation method in the world. Since he already had a divine lattice, why would he still cultivate to the sovereign immortal realm, which was a few levels lower than his divine lattice? In the past, when Ning Fan stole the Yin heavy wood, he would capture the wood dragons that had been accumulated in the mines for countless years whenever he went to a mine. Just like that, while he harvested 220,000 jin of wood, he also harvested hundreds of thousands of wood dragons that were incomparably pure. After Ning Fan devoured all of the wood dragons, his wood yin-yang technique's cultivation base skyrocketed from the small accomplishment sovereign immortal realm all the way to the mid-stage of the sovereign immortal realm. Cultivators at the mid-stage of the sovereign immortal realm could nurture the void of the sovereign immortal realm. However, there was another problem. In order to condense the void of the sovereign immortal realm, he would need to use some special methods. For example, the eye-opening technique, the Tao fruit of the sovereign immortal realm, the heartless technique, and so on. At first, Ning Fan was still studying the method to truly cultivate the void of the sovereign immortal realm and become a heaven-defying immortal king who possessed the sovereign immortal realm. Soon, however, he realized that he was overthinking. Yes, the reason why divine spirits were useless was that they did not snatch the medicinal power of his pills. It was time for a change of taste. It actually devoured the void of the sovereign immortal realm which Ning Fan had just condensed. Ning Fan was petrified on the spot. After devouring the embryonic form of the void of the sovereign immortal realm, Ning Fan's divine lattice had evolved once again into the wood divine lattice. If it was in the prosperous era of ancient divine spirits, it wouldn't be a big deal for a cultivator to awaken his divine lattice. There were at least 8,000 divine spirits who awakened the same type of divine lattice. Among the divine spirits of the same divine lattice, the one with the strongest divine lattice would be blessed by the god ancestor and become the father god, or mother god, of that type of divine lattice. However, was this the era where divine spirits were flourishing? It was the era where all divine spirits had gone extinct. It was unknown how many divine spirits were still existing in this world. It was even harder to tell how many of them had cultivated the wood divine lattice. In the end, it was amazing. The moment Ning Fan obtained the wood divine lattice, the god ancestor blessed him, causing a lot of memories of the divine spirits to appear in the depths of his sea of consciousness. Those memories included the records of all the wood father god and wood mother god since the birth of the god ancestor and in the endless reincarnations. With great glory, Ning Fan became the 9,122nd father god of wood. At the same time when he obtained this title, his body gained a divine spirit talent called palm wood. This was the second divine spirit talent that Ning Fan had. It did not sound domineering at all, but it contained the power to rule the world. At this moment, all the plants and living beings in the world became Ning Fan's servants. At this moment, Ning Fan was the father of all plants in the world. He could give life to all plants or take away their lives. Only when another divine spirit who possessed the wood divine lattice issued a divine challenge to Ning Fan and succeeded in the challenge could he take away Ning Fan's title. Otherwise, as long as Ning Fan did not die, all the plants in the world would have to obey his command. What did this mean? It meant that even if Taoist Musong had the cultivation base of a second-level quasi-saint realm expert, his wood master position would be destroyed by Ning Fan in an instant and his cultivation base would go down the drain. This was the height of wood that Taoist Musong could not achieve in his entire life. This was also a height that even Great Emperor Ancient Chaos could not reach. If it was the era of divine spirits, a divine spirit with a crippled body who was not even an innate divine spirit would definitely not have the right to become the god ancestor. A divine spirit that was destroyed by the era. The era created Ning Fan. Ning Fan did not know that the moment he obtained the title of god ancestor, the three great true worlds outside of the countless world planes were greatly shaken. In any case, no one in the illusionary world where he resided would notice this. As for the completion of the god ancestor's lattice, it meant that Ning Fan had finally ended his 40 years of cultivation. Yes, he had been in seclusion for more than 40 years. Including the 11 years he spent to steal the Een heavy wood, 50 years had passed since the battle that year. The situation in the Realm River had undergone tremendous changes during these 50 years. After walking out of the profound Een world and returning to the Ling Yun Pass, the first thing Ning Fan did was to ask about the current situation in the Realm River. What surprised him was that the 3rd, 6th and 9th water paths had yet to be fully recovered even after dozens of years had passed. All of them were stuck at the last main pass, unable to conquer it. It was no wonder that after so many years, Emperor Tsang and the others still did not summon him to repair the immortal sovereign seal. It turned out that they had yet to achieve the prerequisite to repair the seal. Currently, each of the 3rd, 6th and 9th water paths was guarded by no less than 10 immortal emperors of foreign races. In the past, in order to pursue and kill Ning Fan, the 10 paths of heaven had used up most of their immortal emperors' quotas. Dozens of years had passed, and the quota had been restored. Dozens of immortal emperors came out. However, the reason why these immortal emperors came out of the water was no longer to kill Ning Fan. Instead, they had a more important purpose to achieve. They needed to concentrate their forces in the 3rd, 6th, and 9th route to eliminate the Eastern Sky Alliance's forces. During the tens of years when Ning Fan was in seclusion, the Realm River Alliance army suffered heavy casualties. Around 60% of their cultivators died in the Realm River. Nearly half of the immortal venerables and immortal kings had perished. Even a few immortal thearchs had perished. The lightning immortal Tao companion had both died in battle. The great emperor was captured by the outsiders, and after he was killed, his corpse was refined into a puppet. Grand Emperor Shin Kong of Godly Void Pavilion was ambushed by an immortal emperor of a foreign race, and his cultivation level dropped to a 7 tribulation immortal emperor. Great Emperor Jin Yuan died in battle. Madame Gue Hua had betrayed him. Dongling Immortal Father had betrayed them. Great Emperor Iron Li died a miserable death. When his subordinates told Ning Fan about these grievous news, the joy he felt from his cultivation base improving was diluted. His heart was filled with a heavy feeling. Just when he was immersed in his cultivation, when he knew nothing about the outside world, so many figures were buried here. He could no longer see his lightning immortal Tao companion and great Emperor Ji Hua who fought side by side with him in the past. What made Ning Fan even angrier was that 2 more immortal emperors had betrayed the Eastern Sky Alliance army. Previously, it was Great Emperor Mo He who betrayed the outsiders. Now, 2 more immortal emperors, Gue Hua and Dong Ling, had betrayed them. Did the 2 of them betray the alliance before the war? Or were they like Mo He who had long been involved with the outsiders? Ning Fan did not know. His heart was extremely heavy and he felt an indescribable sense of self-blame. If he did not go into seclusion, if he ignored Taiyuan Fairy's order and left the 11th route to reinforce the other routes, would Ji Hua and the others not have died? Would there be fewer people who sacrificed their lives to protect the Eastern Sky? I'm sorry. I've been in seclusion for quite a long time this time. I just found out about the situation in the border river. Ning Fan contacted Emperor Tsang. His tone was cold, but Emperor Tsang could still hear the self-blame and guilt in Ning Fan's voice. Emperor Tsang was not at Taiyuan Ferry. The rapid deterioration of the situation made him unable to stay at the rear with peace of mind. Thus, he had no choice but to rush to the front line. After hearing Ning Fan's message, Emperor Tsang felt gratified. He coughed and said with a bitter smile, "I really didn't expect that the number one devil of the eastern sky, who has always been indifferent to life and death, would actually blame himself for the loss of some lives. However, what obligation do you have to blame yourself? You are just an immortal venerate and a deputy general. Up until now, you have already fulfilled your mission. You protected the 11th route and protected your subordinates. You have already done enough. There is no need for you to shoulder the rise and fall of the entire eastern sky on your own shoulders. I am the Alliance Lord. The one who should blame myself and take responsibility is me. We came to this alliance meeting to protect the eastern sky out of our own free will. We have long been prepared to die in battle. What you said is true. However, if it wasn't because of my incompetence, how could I not even notice that traitors have infiltrated the Alliance army one after another? First, there was Primordial Pill and Ma. Then there was Ghost Flower and Dong Ling Hateful. Hateful. Cough, cough, cough. Perhaps because he was too angry, his injuries were affected. From the other end of the communication jade slip came the sound of Emperor Tsang coughing violently. When his breathing calmed down, Emperor Tsang let out a long sigh and said unwillingly, "You have also heard about the situation in the border river. I did not expect that even Dong Ling was a traitor. He leaked our plan to the foreign races and even caused the death of fellow Taoist Tai Li. When they found out that recovering the water pass could actually help to repair the immortal sovereign's seal, those foreign races were shocked. On the same day, they increased the number of troops and guarded the water passes of the 3, 6, and 9 routes like an iron bucket. Therefore, until now, these 3 routes are still unable to recover the entire territory. In this way, we can't start the next phase of the plan. That's why I didn't inform you to come out of seclusion and let you stay in seclusion. Now that you have come out, I wonder what your plan is? I have stayed in the 10th route long enough. It's time to change places. The 3, 6, and 9 routes. Which route needs support the most? You should go to the 3rd route. I don't know what happened there recently. There are actually experts who mysteriously disappeared one after another. Half a month ago, even fellow Taoist Lai Jun was taken away by a ray of red light. Since his life plate hasn't shattered, he shouldn't be dead yet. He must be trapped somewhere by the foreign races. Since he hates the foreign races to the core, I don't think he will betray them. I have a lot of contacts with him and I know his personality very well. His disappearance really worries me. I don't want to see another fellow Taoist immortal emperor die. All right, I will go to the 3rd route to investigate this matter. If I have the chance, I will recover the main pass of the 3rd route as well. Ning Fan secretly made up his mind. According to the information, there were currently a total of 9 immortal emperors of the foreign races guarding the White Tiger Pass. To the Eastern Heavens emperors of the 3rd route, 9 immortal emperors of the foreign races were enough to make them unable to fight back. To Ning Fan, with his strength that had skyrocketed, even if he did not use the world bottle, he would not have to fight a difficult battle like last time when facing such a large number of immortal emperors. If Emperor Tsang and the others couldn't recover all the water passes, it would be the same to let him complete this task. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.